Chapter 541. Deepwater was wondering if Gu Fei had stepped into a trap, but he didn't expect the pa-pa sound of the trap activating to ring out continuously. Deepwater's vision was blocked at this time, so he quickly adjusted his steps and widened his vision. Finally, the scene behind a big tree appeared in front of him. Deepwater's mouth instantly opened wider and wider, and in the surrounding forest, more and more players from extreme coldness poked their heads out and stood up straight. Their expressions seemed to be carved out of the same mold as Deepwater. Their eyes and mouths were wide open, and their faces looked like 3 eggs were stuck on them. Right in front of them, in the trap array that extreme coldness was proud of and prepared to use to dominate Shade City, Gu Fei was dancing crazily as if he had been injected with chicken blood. The papa sound came from Gu Fei's feet. Every step he took would always trigger a trap, but the trap clip that bounced up at high speed was not as fast as Gu Fei's reaction. The tip of his long sword was waiting 3 steps below him. As soon as the trap bounced up, his feet would immediately jump up, and when the trap caught up to his ankle, it would immediately be knocked away by the tip of the sword. Pa-pa, one pa, was the sound of the trap bouncing up, and the other pa was the sound of the trap being shot down by Gu Fei. Deepwater really had no words to describe the scene in front of him. This scene evoked a very bad memory in him. The first time he fought with Gu Fei, he heard the trap sound behind him. He excitedly thought that Gu Fei had been stuck in the trap, but when he turned around he was caught in the nose by the trap that Gu Fei had flicked away, and at this time, Gu Fei's performance was even more abnormal than that day. At this time, he was already deep in extreme coldness trap array. After all, this was not the steps at the entrance of Sunset City's dungeon. The traps were placed there naked. Here, all the traps were hidden underground, and Gu Fei could not predict the location of the traps at all. From the moment he accidentally stepped on the first trap, it was as if he had activated a chain of mechanisms. In order to avoid the first one, he would trigger the second, and after avoiding the second, he would step on the third. Deepwater and the others were dumbfounded. At this time, Gu Fei was also complaining in his heart. At this time, even having an inch of foothold was an extravagant wish for him. Gu Fei did not dare to be careless. The traps had already overwhelmed him, and he had no time to pay attention to where the water-breaking arrow was. After consecutively flicking down a few more traps, finally, when his foot landed, the ground was calm, and nothing broke out of the ground. Gu Fei let out a long breath, but did not dare to be careless. He maintained a posture with 1 foot on the ground. With the other foot, Gu Fei had to check the ground to see if there were any traps. The surrounding extreme cold players' faces were deathly pale. After that breaking Gu Fei's, all, Gu breaking, Gu Fei's, death, then 17. Someone stammered out this number. Everyone knew what he was talking about. Gu Fei had stepped on 17 traps in a row, but in the end, it was as if nothing had happened to him. 17 traps, all shot down by him with a single sword. Thinking back, from the moment Gu Fei stepped on the first trap until now, it was like a dream. Everyone realized that they could not remember what Gu Fei had done. Because everything had happened too quickly, everyone's brains were echoing with the 2 consecutive pa-pa sounds. The first pa was the sound of a trap being ejected. The second pa was the sound of a trap being shot down. Suddenly, everyone felt that the future of their class was very bleak, very bleak. In this kind of environment, 17 traps in a row had not been able to subdue someone. Was there still a future for this class? Everyone stood in place, stupefied. Even the trees around them were livelier than they were. When the wind blew, they could even make a slight sha-sha sound. Gu Fei did not seem to realize that his perverted actions had created a destructive psychological shadow in the hearts of the surrounding players. At this moment, he was still maintaining the posture of a golden rooster standing on 1 leg. With 1 hand holding onto his sword, he poked at the ground, trying to find an empty space where he could rest assured. At this moment, the rustling sound of the wind suddenly grew louder, but it was clear that the wind did not suddenly become fierce. Everyone's hearts moved, and they looked towards the direction of the sound. Breaking arrow! He rushed out from the bushes and pounced on Gu Fei, who was trapped in the trap array. Old broken arrow! The players were crying tears of joy. It was obvious that they viewed the water-breaking arrow as their last hope. They hoped that someone would prove to them that traps had a future, and that they had the ability to defeat any perverted player. In fact, they had forgotten that Breaking Arrow was not a lurker that specialized in playing with traps. "You still haven't left." Gu Fei's expression changed. He thought that Breaking Arrow had lured him to this place because he wanted to escape while he was trapped. He didn't think that Breaking Arrow was actually secretly watching from the side and still harboring killing intent. This Breaking Arrow was much more promising than Gu Fei had imagined. Breaking Arrow did not reply. He was silent and fiercely pounced towards Gu Fei. He had also stepped into the trap that Gu Fei was trapped in, but every step he took was safe and sound. "Old Breaking Arrow, so cool!" All the players shouted. The guild leader had instructed them not to interfere in this PK, and they had obeyed. However, in a PK, everyone had their own opinions, and that was fine, right? In this battle, no matter what angle they looked at it from, the players of Extreme Frost would all stand on Breaking Arrow's side. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that the guild leader, Deepwater, was watching from the side, some of them might have already made a move. Even if they didn't openly help, they could still sneak a shot or two in the dark. This was the forte of a lurker. Breaking Arrow rushed over aggressively, but Gu Fei was still standing on one foot, unable to find a foothold. This was exactly the opportunity that Breaking Arrow needed to seize. Dual Flame Flash, dodge. Gu Fei didn't dare move his feet and could only helplessly defend. His long sword trembled, and a dual flame flash stabbed towards Breaking Arrow. Breaking Arrow did not panic. Seeing the incoming force, he jumped to the side. Gu Fei would never stop in one move, but seeing Breaking Arrow dodge, he could only curse in his heart, "Motherfucker." Breaking Arrow's jumping position meant that Gu Fei wanted to follow up with a follow-up attack. Not moving his feet was completely out of the question. This guy completely knew that Gu Fei didn't dare to move recklessly. After dodging the sword, Breaking Arrow didn't give way, and continued to pounce. Seeing his stance, Gu Fei actually gave up on using his crossbow as a gun, and came over to play close combat with Gu Fei. Normally, Gu Fei would welcome this, but right now it was a very serious challenge. Even though we often see experts in movies and television beating people up without moving, don't forget that those are all first-rate experts toying with noobs. If it was any random player that Gu Fei picked up, he could obviously do the same, but the person in front of him wasn't an ordinary player. The water-breaking arrow rushed forward and raised his palm to lock onto Gu Fei's throat. This move was very vicious. If it was a real fight, it would definitely be able to break Gu Fei's throat and kill him in one move. Gu Fei didn't dare to be careless, and at the same time he tilted his body to avoid the attack, he used the leg that hadn't had a chance to land, and swept it horizontally towards Breaking Arrow's head. Breaking Arrow arched his body to avoid it, and followed up with a sweeping kick towards Gu Fei's supporting leg. In the end, Gu Fei's leg was even faster. The foot that was sweeping towards his head suddenly changed direction, stepping down on the Broken Water Archer's lowered head. Following that, the Broken Water Archer was almost trampled to the ground. Gu Fei used the force of this step to avoid the sweeping foot with his other leg, and his body had already leapt into the air. Teleportation. In the air, Gu Fei chanted towards the sky, and with a whoosh, he had already appeared in the air. Both of his hands grabbed onto the branch that was hanging in front of him, and with a swing of his body, he had already flipped over. "Sorry, I was forced." Gu Fei gestured to Breaking Water Arrow, indicating that he had no choice but to step on Breaking Water Arrow's head under his foot. Once Breaking Arrow heard this, he became even more depressed. It turned out that there were traps in the 2 or 3 moves just now. Obviously, in Gu Fei's previous situation, the single leg that was supporting his balance was the biggest flaw. Gu Fei predicted that Breaking Arrow would quickly attack there, so he beat him at his own game, and swept towards Breaking Arrow's head. That was because he predicted that Breaking Arrow would lower his body to avoid Gu Fei's supporting leg, so Gu Fei conveniently used Breaking Arrow's head as a support. With such a support leg, plus the distance of teleportation, Gu Fei immediately escaped from the trap and climbed up the tree. No matter how powerful Breaking Arrow was, he couldn't fly up the tree, so he quickly pulled out his crossbow and shot again. He thought that perhaps Gu Fei wouldn't be too agile on this branch, but in the end, Gu Fei's martial arts were really solid, and he stood on a branch steadily. Turning left, turning right, Breaking Arrow shot out 6 arrows, but none of them hit. He quickly pulled out the arrow box and buried his head to reload, occasionally looking up at Gu Fei on the tree. He saw Gu Fei take out an apple from his pocket and nibble on it. This was also equivalent to reloading his ammunition. Mana recovery was still a bit slow, especially when Gu Fei couldn't wait for the best recovery time. After taking 2 bites, Breaking Arrow's ammunition was already reloaded, and he raised it again to aim at Gu Fei. Gu Fei helplessly spread his hands towards him. "What's the point? You can't hit anyway. Do you really have to shoot all the arrows in your pocket?" Breaking Arrow clenched his teeth. This was indeed the case, but if he didn't shoot, what else could he do? In the end, you still have to play with the gun, then why did you rush over? Gu Fei said. Breaking Arrow didn't answer. In fact, he certainly didn't want to rush over, but how could he have thought that Gu Fei was so abnormal that he couldn't be controlled even after stepping on 17 traps? Gu Fei previously maintained his posture and didn't dare to move, which was no different from falling into a trap, but this was for people like Gu Fei who didn't know. Breaking Arrow, who was completely familiar with the trap array, knew very well that Gu Fei had jumped out of the array after picking 17 traps in a row. If he dared to take 2 steps randomly, he would soon notice. Breaking Arrow rushed up, wanting to force Gu Fei back into the array before he noticed. After all, it was easier to control the opponent's movement in close combat, but who would have thought that Gu Fei could use his head to fly up the tree? Life was really too helpless. Butterfly not. Well, but the two of them have fought for long enough. It's time for a real result. Chapter 542. The shouts and cheers of the extreme cold players came to an abrupt stop as Gu Fei appeared behind the tree. Everyone returned to the idiotic expression they had when they were admiring Gu Fei challenging the trap formation a few seconds ago. Each and every one of them opened their mouths and looked up. Climbing up a tree in the game wasn't unusual, but suddenly climbing up a tree in such a tight 1v1 PK match. This was a PK technique that even the players living in the forest hadn't developed yet. How did he do it? Everyone whispered. Some people even simulated it, bending down to let the opponent step on their head to see if it was a quick way to climb up the tree. Reality proved that, not mentioning Gu Fei's teleportation skill, to be able to accurately step on a round head and quickly borrow strength, this was also a technique. Because this step had to be very fast, the two sides were fighting, not specially stiffening their necks for support. If you weren't fast enough, if the opponent turned around and dodged, or stepped on too firmly and directly trampled the opponent to the ground, the purpose of borrowing strength wouldn't be achieved. Then they saw Gu Fei elegantly turn around on a single tree to dodge 6 arrows from Breaking Arrow. Everyone became even more silent. Everyone thought that it was unfair to cheer for Breaking Arrow again. The opponent was such a scary guy. Asking Old Broken to win was asking too much. They couldn't make things difficult for Old Broken. Although Breaking Arrow knew that it would be difficult to hit Gu Fei even if he continued to shoot, he felt that in this situation he still had the initiative. Gu Fei was standing on the tree. Any slight mistake would cause him to fall or get hit, and he didn't seem to be able to make any threatening attacks against him. Hua! Suddenly there was a flash of light in the sky. Breaking Arrow paused for a moment and quickly dodged. Another bolt of lightning dodged to the side of his feet. Breaking Arrow's face turned pale again. It had only been a few minutes. How could he forget that he was still a mage? Breaking Arrow really wanted to slap himself. Even so, he still had the advantage. The speed of a mage's magic attack couldn't be compared to an archer's arrow, especially when most of them had a bit of a flashy prelude. This was something that Gu Fei couldn't change no matter how strong he was. Breaking Arrow judged the situation and immediately raised his head to shoot again without hesitation. The string of the crossbow rattled, and the arrows whizzed through the air. On the tree, Gu Fei was still the same. He turned left, turned right, turned sideways, bent over, and looked as if he could fall at any time, but he did not. Not a single arrow hit its target. Breaking Arrow was very patient. He was reluctant to use the sniper because he didn't want Gu Fei to adapt to the speed of the sniper. He wanted to wait for the moment when Gu Fei had a flaw in his dodging to give a sudden attack. Moreover, not using snipe for a long time was also a form of pressure for Gu Fei. If he used it casually, at least he would be able to relax a lot during the cooldown period. Sniping wasn't some high-leveled skill that hadn't been announced yet. The official database had all the data on it, and everyone knew that it normally had a cooldown of 45 seconds. Water-breaking arrow hoped that Gu Fei's mind would always be in a state of tension, not even giving him this 45 seconds of respite. In the game, it was very difficult to cause physical fatigue, but mental fatigue was exactly the same as in the real world. Right now, water-breaking arrow wanted to force Gu Fei's mind to be tired first. Taking out the quiver, loading the arrow, and shooting again. Water-breaking arrow skillfully performed this set of actions. After loading the arrow, he immediately raised the arrow and shot. Then it was time for Gu Fei to perform. Attacking water-breaking arrow also tried to attack Gu Fei by calculating the distance in advance. In the end, he found that Gu Fei's dodging wasn't the kind of dodging that made it impossible for people to aim at him. Instead, he calmly dodged after clearly seeing water-breaking arrow's direction of attack. This was undoubtedly a method that could only be used by people with excellent judgment and reaction speed. Water-breaking arrow tried to use a few tricks to distract Gu Fei's attention, but it didn't work. He found that in Gu Fei's eyes, he didn't seem to see him anymore, but only the crossbow in his hand. Gu Fei was completely focused on where the crossbow was pointing. As for whether water-breaking arrow was dead or alive, whether he was lying down or standing, he didn't care. I don't believe that you can keep dodging. Water-breaking arrow's vigor also came up. Box after box of arrows was shot, but he didn't give up. He shot again and again. Gu Fei would occasionally return one or two spells, such as lightning, area of effect, small fireball, and so on. Water-breaking arrow dodged and returned fire. Just like this, they maintained a certain distance, going back and forth. Someone in the audience yawned first. Immediately, it spread like H1N1, and the yawns began to rise and fall. Regarding the PK between the two, the audience had already entered aesthetic fatigue from the initial amazement. If there wasn't a climax soon, everyone was ready to give up on this pit. It's been almost half an hour, right? A guy asked his friend next to him. 24 minutes and 34 seconds? This friend next to him was obviously bored to the point that his balls hurt. He didn't watch the PK anymore and instead looked at the time to play. If this goes on, can there still be a winner? At the beginning, the audience's mentality was the same as water-breaking arrows. They all thought that water-breaking arrow had a slight advantage, and that Gu Fei on the tree would make a mistake if he was careless. But after so long, the facts spoke louder than words. It will. Unexpectedly, there were still people who had such an optimistic attitude. Old Duan's arrows will be shot out sooner or later, right? Hey, don't borrow Old Duan's arrows. If he comes to borrow them. This voice quickly spread among the audience. Every player tightly clutched their quiver. Can there be a little change? In the end, there were still people who had some hope for this PK, hoping that there would be a climax. Sigh. Most of the people's faces showed pessimistic expressions. That guy keeps hiding like this, why doesn't he come down? He's probably afraid of the traps on the ground, but he actually doesn't have shoes. Immediately, someone covered his mouth. Although they hoped that this fight would end soon, in everyone's hearts, the winner was still water-breaking arrow. They didn't want Gu Fei to know this important news. Old Duan might as well just chase up the tree. Someone thought. Halfway up the tree, an area of effect spell coming down, how can he dodge it? Sigh. Looks like we can only wait for Old Duan to shoot out all his arrows. Everyone sighed deeply. Compared to the audience, water-breaking arrow, who was in the middle of the fight, didn't show any signs of anxiety. It was obvious that his mental fortitude was very strong. More importantly, he didn't treat Gu Fei as a normal person at all. He didn't expect to finish him off in 2 or 3 minutes. This PK is no longer a matter of technique. It's a competition of mental strength. Let's see who can maintain concentration in this kind of situation to the end. I have a greater advantage since I have the initiative. His mental exhaustion is definitely greater than mine. I can't lose. Water-breaking arrow encouraged himself. Another 10 minutes passed like this. Water-breaking arrow continued to concentrate on this mental battle. Suddenly, he heard Gu Fei speak, breaking the balance of the situation. Why you only here now? He heard Gu Fei say this. There are many traps in the forest. Be more careful. A voice from behind him replied. Water-breaking arrow immediately turned around. He saw Sword Demon. He didn't know when, but he was already behind him. The distance between them was less than 3 meters. Water-breaking arrow was really too focused. He didn't even notice that someone was already behind him. Your mission. He suddenly heard Gu Fei speak from the tree. Then he saw Gu Fei stretch his body and elegantly jump down from the tree. After landing firmly on the ground, he happily walked a few steps, not at all afraid of the possible traps on the ground. Although there weren't any, Gu Fei's mentality shouldn't be like this. Water-breaking arrow didn't understand. He faintly felt that he thought he had the initiative, but in fact, he was being led by the nose. He thought this was a battle of mental willpower. But in fact, it was more like a game to stall for time. Was all of this just so the sword ghost could complete his daily mission? It really returned to the origin of the genre. This was a game. Breaking Water Arrow looked at Gu Fei, who was pacing back and forth. He suddenly realized that Gu Fei was walking on the same spot that he had walked on before. This guy used spells to attack from the tree, forcing Water-breaking arrow to run and dodge. Especially with large area of effect spells, the distance he had to run was very long. And in this process, he actually memorized all the traces Water-breaking arrow had walked. At this moment, he only walked to these places. It didn't matter whether there were traps on the ground or not. After a few more glances, Water-breaking arrow collapsed again. Gu Fei wasn't taking a walk out of boredom. He was reviewing the places Water-breaking arrow had walked. He wanted to find the best position to attack Water-breaking arrow. He was actually preparing as if there was no one else around. Was he already regarded as a fish on the chopping board? Gu Fei was a professional in fighting. Naturally, he was very efficient. It didn't take him long to choose a plan. He looked up and found Water-breaking arrow looking at him. He turned his head and looked at Sword Demon behind Water-breaking arrow. Do you need my help? No one answered. The onlookers couldn't stand it anymore. 2 against 1. Shameless. There was a lot of cursing, but the people involved weren't angry. The sword ghost replied indifferently, no need. Gu Fei replied with an oh. Then he stood there motionlessly. Water-breaking arrow looked at this and that. Although they were enemies, and although they were the balance breakers that Yi Xiaowu said, Water-breaking arrow had a certain understanding of these two guys' characters. He believed that even if the two were to fight 2 against 1, they wouldn't use such tricks to deceive the opponent. Since Sword Demon said, no need, it seemed that Qinli Drunk wouldn't interfere. It changed to 1 against 1 with Sword Demon. Water-breaking arrow turned and looked at Sword Demon. Sword Demon was certainly not as scary as Qinli Drunk, but he also defeated Apple Vinegar. Moreover, the distance between the two was less than 3 meters. At this distance, with the speed of Fog Shadow's surprise attack, even if he knew how to dodge, there was still a lot of suspense. However, the ground was full of traps. This guy would also have misgivings and wouldn't use such a direct attack. Water-breaking arrow thought and raised his crossbow again. His hand was still so steady. Sword Demon's figure suddenly disappeared. Water-breaking arrow cursed inwardly. When Sword Demon appeared again, he was already in front of him. The daggers in his left and right hands stabbed at him at the same time. Water-breaking arrow subconsciously dodged. His heart was full of tragedy. He had miscalculated again. He didn't think that a reliable veteran player like Sword Demon would be so reckless and not consider the existence of the traps on the ground. Chapter 543. Sword Demon felt quite sad at this moment. He didn't expect Water-breaking arrow to still be able to react to his attack at such a close distance. Sword Demon already felt that his 2 attacks weren't solid enough. Compared to this specially trained talent, the difference in reaction speed was really hard to make up. Although it didn't cause an instant kill level damage, The impact of Misty Ambush still exploded. Water-breaking arrow was hit far away by this attack and was about to fall into the bushes in the blink of an eye. Last time, he had been killed by Gu Fei's sword when he had fallen to the ground in a panic. This time, the tragedy was repeating itself. Water-breaking arrow glanced at Gu Fei. At this time, Gu Fei had even put away his sword. Clearly, he was only prepared to watch the duel between him and the sword ghost. Water-breaking arrow let out a sigh of relief. One attack didn't kill him, so there was still a chance. Water-breaking arrow thought and began to pay attention to where he would land in the air. There was a place around him that he could immediately hide. As a result, he immediately knew that this was bad. The place where he was about to fall was a large area of traps. At this time, he had already lost his balance in the air and couldn't adjust his body. If he fell like this, he would definitely be caught in the traps. Everything happened so quickly. Water-breaking arrow just finished thinking that this was bad and was already lying on the ground. Branches and leaves flew around under his violent pressure. Pa-pa-pa, sounds rang out continuously. People like Deepwater, who were experienced and had outstanding judgment, immediately realized that the water-breaking arrow had triggered at least 6 traps. Water-breaking arrow lost the ability to move after falling to the ground, but at least he could still use his hands to support himself up. Looking up, Sword Demon was already holding a dagger and walking towards him step by step. His figure gradually disappeared with each step. So, water-breaking arrow was in a trap formation. Even in stealth mode, he would still trigger the traps. However, Sword Demon disappeared and continued to move forward. His figure didn't appear again. There was only one explanation. He didn't fall into the traps. He avoided the traps along the way step by step. This guy. Water-breaking arrow realized that Sword Demon was much scarier than he thought. He had ignored the traps on the ground and used Misty Shadow Ambush on himself because he knew that there were no traps at the border. He had used Misty Strike, but he had already anticipated that he wouldn't be able to instantly kill the water-breaking arrow. However, he had also anticipated that the water-breaking arrow wouldn't be able to escape unscathed no matter how powerful it was. Therefore, he had purposely sent the water-breaking arrow into the trap. At this moment, he was able to avoid every trap in the trap array because he also had some understanding of this trap array. He disguised himself as an extreme cold player and mixed into their group. Sword Ghoul wasn't here to be a bystander like Gu Fei. He was very serious about his knowledge of traps and asked for advice. As expected, he should not have underestimated him. Gaming experts were also experts. All experts had one thing in common: they all used their brains. A person who only knew how to use brute force or equipment would never become a true expert. It was too late for water-breaking arrow to sigh. Sword Demon disappeared in front of his eyes. He had no idea where Sword Demon was at. Experts who practiced both internal and external cultivation could rely on their senses to find the location of people who were paying attention to them. Water-breaking arrow was only clear about this. Unfortunately, he wasn't an expert of this level. There were also differences in cultivation. Water-breaking arrow's ability was only enough to have some intermittent intuition. This might be useful in a moment of life and death, but in a situation where the pace was so slow, without Gu Fei's accurate grasp, this intuition was useless. Water-breaking arrow was fully aware of the traps that these people in extreme cold were wearing. He needed at least 10 more seconds to be able to move again. At this moment, Sword Demon might have already reached his side. Water-breaking arrow had no way of defending against this unknown attack. He finally gave up his last attempt to struggle. Today, he had already created enough tragedies. Water-breaking arrow didn't want to continue being a joke. Silence, silence again. That night, the originally bustling forest had welcomed this kind of silence many times, but this time was undoubtedly the quietest. Compared to the previous times where the forest was shocked into silence due to the shocking scene, this time, it was the kind of holding one's breath as they waited for the big ending. There was a real, deathly stillness. This pressure was concentrated on the 2 people in the field. Water-breaking arrow's mental state was absolutely strong. Under this kind of pressure, he didn't show the slightest hint of fear. Everyone was waiting for Sword Demon to appear, waiting for Water-Breaking Arrow to disappear. Sword Demon finally appeared, but Water-Breaking Arrow didn't immediately disappear. Sword Demon only appeared behind him. Sword Demon's dagger was pointed at his waist. "You lost," Sword Demon said. Water-Breaking Arrow heard the voice behind him and suddenly turned back. Sword Demon made a sound, but he wasn't dead yet. He thought he still had a chance, but when he turned his head he found Sword Demon's dagger was already at his waist. It wasn't that he had a chance, but that Sword Demon's dagger didn't even stab him. Water-Breaking Arrow was a little confused. He looked at Sword Demon. "I owed you a favor before." Sword Demon had already put away his dagger. "Now I've paid it back." Water-Breaking Arrow was startled. He understood what Sword Demon was referring to. Previously, they had doubts about their purpose in sneaking into extreme cold, causing a lot of trouble. After that, they expressed their apologies. Water Depth had already said this to Water-Breaking Arrow on their behalf. However, they had already fallen out with each other. Although Water-Breaking Arrow didn't have the evil intentions that they had imagined, it was still related to them. If it was Water-Breaking Arrow's way of thinking, it was hard to say whether they owed him a favor or not. "You don't owe me any favors," Water-Breaking Arrow said. "Whether it's bad or not, that's my opinion. It's not up to you to decide." Sword Demon finished speaking and retreated. "Anyway, I think it's not bad now. So the next time we meet, I won't be merciful." Under everyone's gaze, Water-Breaking Arrow was originally a god in many people's hearts. At this time, he was completely defeated, and he even wanted to let him go with the excuse of returning a favor. For any self-respecting person, this was worse than death. Leaving under everyone's gaze wasn't an easy thing to do. But Water-Breaking Arrow didn't seem to care about this at all. He only looked at Sword Demon, who already had his back turned to him. "Like this, I feel like I owe you a favor. But I'm a person who distinguishes between public and private affairs. When I need to kill you, I won't use this method to return the favor. That's your business. Do whatever you want." Sword Demon didn't turn back. Water-Breaking Arrow looked at him, then looked at Gu Fei. He actually nodded his head, then turned around and walked out of the trap. "I'm sorry." Sword Demon walked in front of Gu Fei. "You worked so hard, but I let him go." "What are you saying?" Gu Fei was angry. "What do you mean by worked hard? It was just a slight effort." The happiest person in the crowd was actually Water Depth. He laughed and jumped in front of the two. He patted Sword Demon hard and said, "Ha, you really are a person who distinguishes right from wrong. I admire you more and more." Gu Fei squinted at him. "You just think that both sides are your acquaintances. If you really fight to the death in your territory under your eyes, you'll be in a dilemma. So, this is the best ending, right? You actually saw through it. You're really not simple." Water Depth began to pat Gu Fei hard again. Gu Fei helplessly looked at him in disdain and looked at Sword Demon. "When are you going to do your quest? There's no rush. Now that we're entangled, we'll have plenty of chances to meet in the future, right?" Sword Demon said. "Be careful, this guy is still very hard to deal with." Gu Fei said. "Yeah." Sword Demon definitely agreed with this point. Just based on the fact that he was able to survive Misty Shadow's ambush, he was far above normal players. The players in Extreme Cold were still a bit confused. It was already strange that the guild leader didn't let everyone participate in this PK. After the PK, he let Old Duan leave, but was very close to his two opponents. Everyone was even more confused. Just as they were about to ask, the entire guild suddenly received a system notification. Player Broken Water Arrow has left the guild. The entire guild was in an uproar. Although Broken Water Arrow had only joined the guild for a short period of time, he was everyone's focus. He wasn't just some random passerby player. As for his exit, everyone thought that something big had happened. Those in the group chat, those in Deepwater's private chat, those who had just witnessed the PK all gathered around. They believed that Old Duan's exit had something to do with this PK. Water Depth had no choice but to leave the two of them. He was surrounded by a group of players and asked all sorts of questions. "Being a guild leader really isn't easy," Sword Demon said with deep emotions. Thinking back to his era, it was nothing more than being surrounded by people in the channel or voice chat. That was already annoying enough. Now that Water Depth was surrounded by a group of people and asked questions, Sword Demon suddenly felt a chill down his spine. The scale of the guild in the parallel world was much larger than in the previous game. Moreover, he needed to communicate with his brothers face to face. Perhaps he should be glad that he didn't manage to create a guild this time. Water Depth's current situation was a bit too horrible to look at. TSK, this encirclement, it's such a pity that I didn't use double flame flash. Gu Fei also muttered at the side. Sword Demon sweated profusely when he heard this. If Water Depth was in Gu Fei's place and used double flame flash, with his slashing skills, that one attack would probably kill 20 people. Broken Water Arrow, who had left the forest, immediately contacted Yi Xiaowu. I just met Qianli Drunk and Sword Demon. I lost to them. How could it be such a coincidence? Yi Xiaowu said. That guy, he ran into the forest to wait for me. Broken Water Arrow said. This guy. Yi Xiaowu muttered. Gu Fei should be too embarrassed to run into Water Depth and make things difficult for Broken Water Arrow. This favor problem was originally analyzed by Yi Xiaowu and Broken Water Arrow together, but they didn't expect this guy to completely not play his cards according to common sense. How are you now? Yi Xiaowu asked. Not dead. Broken Water Arrow said so, but he didn't want to be entangled in the situation on his side anymore. He turned to ask Yi Xiaowu, where are you? I'm on the way to Whitestone City. Yi Xiaowu replied. Chapter 544. The distance between Shady Grove City and Baishur City was only the distance between two cities, so it wasn't easy to walk. It was mainly because of the dense forest surrounding Shady Grove City, where countless cute lurkers lived. Especially as time went by, more and more players reached level 40, and the lurkers here became more and more prosperous. It was the peak time of the day when the number of online players on the server was at its peak. In the forest, there was a trap every 3 steps. Yi Xiaowu's unparalleled gaming knowledge was useful even at this time. Although he didn't know how the players in Shady Grove City divided up this large forest, at least he knew the distribution of monsters in the forest. No matter how lawless the traps set by the players were, they wouldn't be thrown in a place where there were no monsters, right? After going around and around, a level 36 lone cleric walked out of the forest of Shady Grove City without any trouble. This was only the second time in Shady Grove City's history that this had happened. The first time was also created by Yi Xiaowu when he came. Walking out of the forest and along the flat road, Yi Xiaowu couldn't change the fact that he was short-legged no matter how rich his knowledge was. When he arrived at Baishur City, it was really late. For example, Gu Fei had already gone offline. Yi Xiaowu didn't stop and went straight in the direction of the knight's camp when he arrived at Baishur City. In the knight's camp of Baishur City, Silvermoon sat alone on a step in the camp. How many days had he been trapped here? He couldn't remember himself. He only knew that after he was killed on the way to Shady Grove City, he couldn't leave the camp again. As soon as he returned that day, he found the figures of Yun Zhongmu and the others waiting outside the camp. How could Silvermoon not know their intentions? These people had been waiting here in advance, and Silvermoon already had a faint feeling that something was wrong. After that, he tried to provoke Unsworn Sword to help him, but he received a cold reply. Then, the message he sent actually got a system response saying, the other party refuses to send messages from strangers. At that time, Silvermoon felt like he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. He really couldn't think of any help he could find. Silvermoon wasn't stupid. She suddenly realized that she had been set up again, and this time, the scheme was quite vicious. She wasn't simply sent to the respawn point for Cloud Twilight and the others to kill. More importantly, she had been completely destroyed. She had no way of retreating or reinforcements at all times. The boss of Reigning the Four Seas had deleted her from his friend list, and Silvermoon had lost all hope. But what about her teammates? Although Silvermoon had already abandoned those guys on the way, he still wanted to thicken his skin and give it a try. In the end, before he could even send a message, he received one after another members of the mercenary group leaving the group. Some of them even left him with contempt and curses. In an instant, Silver Moon's mercenary group became isolated. Silver Moon wanted to grab the person to chat privately, but it was as if she was looking for the sword of no oath. All the messages were, the other party rejected messages from strangers, child elite group. Silver Moon gritted her teeth. Although she couldn't figure out how the other party had planned it, she was certain that it was definitely their doing. This scumbag would always abandon his companions at a critical moment. He still didn't realize that his actions had caused him to be isolated, and was still resenting others for setting him up. I can only rely on myself. Silver Moon thought for a whole hour, but couldn't think of anyone else he could use. He even thought of compromising to Boundless Mang, but he gave up in the end. It wasn't that this scumbag had any bottom line, but he really understood Boundless Mang. If he went to her to repent now, he would only get a face full of spit. Without any friends he could use, Silver Moon thought of compromising with the enemy. Cloud Twilight had almost fallen asleep guarding the night camp. Silver Moon smiled amiably and took the initiative to greet everyone. Silver Moon knew that a group like Cloud Twilight would definitely value the king's sword in his hands. Perhaps the reason why these guys were so persistent in chasing him was because of this king's sword. Silver Moon wanted to use this as a bargaining chip to resolve this matter peacefully with Cloud Twilight. Slowly, with a smile on his face, he told her his idea. Silver Moon's eloquence was undoubtedly exceptional. Things like, a smile dispels grudges, a real man should look at the bigger picture, if the two of us join hands, the world will be within our grasp, all kinds of historical allusions, all kinds of mushy compliments, all kinds of pleasing words that could be thought of, all of them were pushed forward, like a sugar-coated bullet bombarding cloud morning. After speaking until he was at a loss for words, Silver Moon took a huge risk and stepped out of the revival point to express his sincerity. He wanted to get closer to Cloud Twilight. At this moment, Cloud Twilight suddenly became excited. Silver Moon thought that his words were effective, and hurriedly reached out to shake Cloud Twilight's hand. However, the hand that Cloud Twilight handed over was also carrying a dagger. That dagger was so vicious that it wanted to stab Silver Moon's intestines out. Cloud Twilight's group of brothers instantly surrounded Silver Moon. He had nowhere to retreat, and was heavily surrounded. This was a brutal killing in the truest sense of the word. These guys had been waiting for this moment for a long time. They couldn't bear for it to end so quickly. Everyone wanted to properly enjoy this moment. Apart from Cloud Twilight's dagger at the beginning, everyone else took off their equipment and relied on the lowest damage they could muster to surround Silver Moon and beat him to death. At this moment, Silver Moon regretted her opinion of Yun Zhongmu, regretted her risky actions, regretted that she had added points to her physique. This beating continued without end, continuing for several minutes. Even so, there were still many people who didn't manage to hit him, and in the end, they started arguing with their own people. Before dying, Silver Moon was even spat on by Cloud Twilight. "Damn you, you talk so much." After dying, Silver Moon was filled with grief and indignation, but he didn't dare to leave the revival point. He stood in the circle and spat at these guys for a while, before going offline helplessly. Silver Moon had already realized that Cloud Twilight's hatred towards him was beyond material. It was completely mental, and he definitely wouldn't let it go after killing him once. The next day, Silver Moon carefully looked around the revival point, but he didn't discover anything. There was no way Silver Moon would be willing to hide in the revival point forever. Although he knew it was dangerous, he had no choice but to take this risk. Thus, he gathered his courage and walked out of the revival point. He was actually safe. Silver Moon, who was prepared to immediately retreat to the revival point, didn't receive any attacks. Silver Moon was pleasantly surprised. However, just as he took 3 steps away from the revival point, a large number of hidden thieves appeared. His path of retreat was blocked, and they surrounded and beat him up. Silver Moon fought back bravely, but this time, Cloud Twilight's group of brothers used the same trick again. They stripped off their equipment and wanted to slowly torture Silver Moon. However, some people went a little overboard. Not only did they remove their weapons, they actually stripped off their entire bodies to take advantage of Silver Moon. How could Silver Moon's attack power be child's play when he had the level 70 Sword of Kings? One of the naked thieves was actually killed by Silver Moon. This naturally enraged the crowd. Amidst shouts of, "Grandson, you dare to fight back," the beating became even more inhumane. Before Silver Moon died, he lost count of how much saliva was splashed on his body. Everyone's punches and kicks weren't enough, and they even had to splatter on him. Silver Moon finally knew fear. He didn't dare to take any more risks. He was afraid that next time, these guys would even use their noses and snot on him. After not going online for a few days, Silver Moon hoped to wear down these guys' patience. After that, he didn't dare to openly leave the revival point. He changed his equipment and wore a mask. After everything was done, he took 3 steps out of the revival point and was surrounded and beaten up inhumanely. Silver Moon cried. He knew that it was impossible for him to leave just like that. Let's waste time. Then let's waste time. Silver Moon gritted his teeth and began to compete with these guys in terms of patience. He took out a stool from somewhere in the revival point and sat there every day, leisurely basking in the sun. Cloud Twilight's brothers were naturally unhappy, but the people at the resurrection point couldn't even spit on them. Silver Moon's "I don't have you in my eyes" expression was a great provocation to them. Silver Moon finally let out a small sigh of relief. After thinking about it, he felt that his actions were really unwise. Only by wearing down these guys' patience would he have a chance to get out of this predicament. Being so impulsive and provoking them, wasn't he just making things difficult for himself? After thinking it through, Silver Moon didn't do such a thing again. He began to deliberately control his online time. Every day, he would come online and show his face for a while, then he would go offline. In the end, the situation became worse and worse. Originally, it was just Yun Zhongmu's people. After a few days, Silver Moon didn't expect his old colleague and subordinate, Lan Yi, to bring people to find him. Of course, Lan Yi didn't come to save him. That day, when he saw him, he fiercely criticized Silver Moon's despicable past. At that time, Silver Moon hurriedly went offline, but Lan Yi's mouth didn't stop. The next day, when Silver Moon came online again, he found that a lot of people he didn't know were looking at him with disdain. Outside the revival point, there were a lot of people who wanted to kill him. Silver Moon cried once more. Silver Moon also thought of other ways. He used some methods to contact some professional players in the gaming studios to help him get out of this predicament. Unfortunately, he was really notorious now. He was already known as the #1 scum in the parallel world. With such a big reputation, even gaming studios wanted to avoid him. People in gaming studios also wanted to earn money. Their own image was very important. How could they stand on the side of the #1 scum? Of course, if Silver Moon was willing to pay a high price, there would also be people who would take the risk anonymously for the sake of benefits. However, the problem was that Silver Moon wasn't Slim Waist Dancer. Apart from being a scum, he was just a normal player. There was no way he could spend a lot of money. Give up the King's Sword? This was Silver Moon's final bargaining chip. He believed that the value of this thing was enough to drive a lot of people. However, this was Silver Moon's bottom line when he had no other way. After being in this state for so long, Silver Moon had started to consider this bottom line more and more. But in the past 2 days, a guy called Water-Breaking Arrow suddenly wrote in. These letters were not from the game. Silver Moon had no chance to access the game mailbox at all. Fortunately, he went SOS everywhere and left a lot of his contact information. As a result, the most he received were the disdain and abuse from players in the parallel world. Just when Silver Moon was about to give up, he suddenly received a letter from this player called Water-Breaking Arrow. Butterfly Knot. Are there any readers who like Silver Moon? Chapter 545. Silver Moon didn't pay much attention to Water-Breaking Arrow's first letter because it wasn't the first time he received such a letter. He had once been overjoyed, but after contacting her online, he quickly realized that it was just a trick to lure him out of the resurrection point. Fortunately, the experienced Silver Moon was smart and cautious. That time, he managed to crawl back to the safe zone of the resurrection point with one last breath. So although Silver Moon saw and replied to Water-Breaking Arrow's first letter, he didn't pay much attention to it. He hadn't eliminated the possibility that it was a trap. Even after receiving the second letter, Silver Moon still didn't let his guard down. He didn't receive Water-Breaking Arrow's third letter. Just as he was praising his own judgment, thinking that he had seen through his opponent's trick and made him give up, he received a letter from another person. He called himself Hongchen Yixiao and said that he was Water-Breaking Arrow's companion. He said that he would personally go to White Stone City to help Silver Moon escape. Silver Moon still wasn't too excited because it wasn't the first time he had to talk to people face to face. He had talked to people face to face many times. However, Silver Moon was a master at tricking people. These small characters really couldn't trick him out of the resurrection point. This guy has contacted me 3 times in a row. This is unprecedented. Silver Moon muttered. He suddenly had a little hope for this guy this time, so he went online at the appointed time. Not long ago, he received a system message from Hongchen Yixiao requesting to be his friend. After confirming, they had officially made contact. The other party clearly said that he was heading to the Knight's camp in White Stone City. "I'll be waiting," Silver Moon replied calmly. It was true that he had hope, but it was only 1%. The remaining 90% was still full of caution. "I'm here." Silver Moon, who was waiting in the camp, suddenly received the message. He immediately stood up and looked at the entrance of the Knight's camp. "Who is it?" Silver Moon asked. This was the resurrection point, the offline area, and the safe area. There were many people coming and going, so the entrance was never empty. Waving, the other party replied. Silver Moon immediately saw a player who looked like a priest standing at the entrance waving his arms. Silver Moon immediately used Identify. Level 36, Priest. Fuck. Silver Moon cursed. He couldn't be bothered to appraise the equipment anymore and immediately stopped. In the game, having a high level didn't necessarily mean you were amazing, but an amazing player had to have a high level. Although it was not easy to widen the gap between levels in parallel worlds, Silver Moon did not believe that a rookie who had not even advanced his occupation could be a great immortal. He could not be bothered with this person anymore and was ready to log off. "Can you see me? Where are you?" Silver Moon was about to go offline when she received a message from this person. Silver Moon glanced at him again and saw that he was still waving his hand while searching the crowd. When her gaze shifted to where she was, she suddenly stopped. Their eyes met, and Silver Moon did not avoid them. Silver Moon stopped waving and walked over. "You're Silver Moon?" the person asked as he walked up to Silver Moon. Silver Moon nodded. Since he had been recognized, he wasn't afraid to see what tricks the other party had up his sleeve. "You don't seem to be in a good situation, do you?" Yi Xiaowu said as she looked around. Many of the passing players cast looks of disdain at Silver Moon. This Silver Moon was really well trained now. It was as if he could not see it, as if no one was around. Of course. If Silver Moon was in a good mood right now, then he would have gone crazy. Right now, he was not even in the mood to pretend to be in a good mood. "I'm here to help you," Yi Xiaowu said. "Oh, what do you plan on doing?" Silver Moon asked calmly. The person who had come for a talk with him had said all sorts of extravagant things, but the real topic was, "First, come out with me." Silver Moon, who had been tricked once, would immediately curse the other party's ancestors the next time he heard these words. At this moment he was ready to go. As soon as the rookie in front of him said these words, he would immediately greet him. With the current situation, I don't think anyone can openly kill their way out of here. Yi Xiaowu said. "Is that so?" Silver Moon said. It should be." Silver Moon expressed his doubt. Yi Xiaowu also stopped talking because at this moment, the two of them simultaneously thought of a certain person. Both of them even had an expression of grief and indignation on their faces. No one could kill their way out, but if it was him, then he might not be able to. This is too unfair. Yi Xiaowu thought. Damn it, slut. Silver Moon had prepared a line of curses for all 8 generations of ancestors, so he silently recited it to Gu Fei in his heart. Afterwards, he continued to quietly wait for the other to speak. Yi Xiaowu didn't say anything. He just quietly took out a scroll from his pocket and waved it at Silver Moon. What scroll? Silver Moon couldn't help but ask. A teleportation scroll. Yi Xiaowu replied. Silver Moon was startled, and his brain immediately began to spin. He had never encountered such a method since he was trapped here. Did he mean to set up a trap at the place where the scroll would teleport him to? Damn it, this was definitely that slut Yun Zhongmu. Only he would be willing to spend so much just to kill me. As Silver Moon was thinking, he saw that Yi Xiaowu had already opened the scroll. Look carefully, it's blank. The coordinates haven't been filled in yet. Silver Moon was startled. I think you should know that if you use a scroll without coordinates, it will teleport you to a random location. Thus, it is impossible to set up an ambush at the teleportation location. Yi Xiaowu said. Silver Moon was startled. He had indeed heard of this rule. In order to dispel his suspicions, Yi Xiaowu now clearly displayed the scroll in front of him. Silver Moon carefully looked inside and out. It was indeed an extremely clean scroll. Not a single word had been written on it. This time it's real. What had originally been a sliver of hope suddenly became 100%. Silver Moon, who had been calm for a long time, suddenly became excited. He wanted nothing more than to hug this scroll and fiercely cry. If you still don't feel at ease, perhaps you can tell me the coordinates. I'll write it down and then we can teleport together. Yi Xiaowu said. Silver Moon pondered. But I suggest that you write the coordinates a bit further away. It's best if it's not within Baishur City's range. In this main city, I feel that for you, there could be danger anywhere. As Yi Xiaowu spoke, he looked at the many gazes that were directed at Silver Moon. At this moment, he was negotiating with Silver Moon. These people were also looking at him with a somewhat inexplicable and strange gaze. Not within Baishur City's range? Silver Moon immediately became suspicious. Aren't teleportation scrolls unable to teleport out of the main city's range? You don't know the rules? If you teleport randomly, you can't leave the main city's range. But if you fill in your own coordinates, then you won't be restricted. Yi Xiaowu explained. Silver Moon really didn't know this rule. It was also because he didn't know that he was suspicious. He was afraid that the guy in front of him was taking advantage of his lack of familiarity with the rules of the teleportation scroll. Once he filled in a location that couldn't be teleported, then the teleportation would fail. Then, if the teleportation failed and he was teleported out of the resurrection point, then it would undoubtedly be a trap that could be controlled. Yi Xiaowu saw Silver Moon's hesitation and smiled. You don't seem to believe me. Then, we'll use the previous method and teleport randomly. But let me remind you, random teleportation is very dangerous. I'm not talking about the possibility of directly teleporting out of this door. Even teleporting to a location that's 1 yard away from your current coordinates is also possible. Or, teleporting to an advanced leveling area with a group of monsters and dying is equivalent to not teleporting. I only have this one teleportation scroll. Can I fill in the coordinates of this main city? Silver Moon said. Of course you can, but I hope you can be sure of the safety of the coordinates you fill in. You don't want to play like this, right? Yi Xiaowu said. Silver Moon was in pain. He was completely unfamiliar with Baishur City and didn't know how to fill in the coordinates where no one was. With his current reputation in Baishur City, as long as he teleported to a place with people, he would suspect that he would be in danger. As long as the other side shouted, "Look, it's Silver Moon," he could instantly form a hunting squad. No, I can't fill in the coordinates of Baishur City. Silver Moon clenched his teeth. He agreed with Yi Xiaowu's statement that teleporting in Baishur City would only bode ill for him. Teleporting like this, the probability of dying was too high. It seemed that he needed to take a gamble and believe in this guy's explanation of the teleportation rules. Teleport to another main city. Then I accept your proposal. Silver Moon said. Then I suggest teleporting to Shady Grove City. Yi Xiaowu said. Shady Grove City? Why Shady Grove City? Silver Moon suddenly became nervous again. He felt that if the initiative wasn't in his hands, then it could be a trap. Brother, you haven't actually asked me why I came to help you. Yi Xiaowu said. Silver Moon suddenly felt ashamed. He, who had always valued profit over friendship, had actually forgotten to ask the other's intentions in helping him. This was really unbecoming of him. I need the power of the king's sword in your hand. Of course, I don't want this equipment. I just hope that you can come with us to deal with a group of people. As for the name of this group, I think that once you hear it, you won't refuse. Yi Xiaowu said. Child elite group? Silver Moon blurted out. Yi Xiaowu nodded. Family. Silver Moon was excited. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. You should know the strength of this group, especially the one called Qianli Drunk. Yi Xiaowu said. Silver Moon nodded again and again. His attitude towards Yi Xiaowu was much more cordial. Brother, have you also been persecuted by them? Persecuted? Your level? Silver Moon said vaguely. He suddenly understood that this cleric in front of him wasn't some newbie. It was just that because he had fought with those guys, he was killed to this level, just like himself. Oh, this has nothing to do with them. It's just that I haven't played much before. I'm in the game now to weaken this Qianli Drunk. Yi Xiaowu said. Oh, then what are you waiting for? Let's go. Silver Moon urged. Don't rush. We're still waiting for someone. When the time comes, we'll go together. Yi Xiaowu replied. Chapter 546. Who is it? Silver Moon's sharp nerves suddenly tensed up again. This guy was already in this state, but he still hoped that the situation was under his control. He panicked at the slightest accident. He was really asking for trouble. Relatives? Yi Xiaowu's answer was based on Silver Moon's thoughts, but it made Silver Moon confused. Tell me the coordinates you want first. I know that if I say it, you'll be suspicious again, Yi Xiaowu said. But the coordinates of Forest Shade City. Silver Moon wasn't in Forest Shade City, so how would he know the coordinates there? Do you believe what I said? If you don't, you can ask any of your friends over there, Yi Xiaowu said. Silver Moon was very depressed. How could he still have friends now? Although there were some old friends in the friend list that he knew in the game and hadn't come into contact with in the parallel world, since he became famous all over the world, no matter who he sent a message to, the other party would reject strangers' messages. Yi Xiaowu also seemed to see Silver Moon's dilemma. After smiling, he said a long string of coordinates. You're not a newbie. I guess you know how large the area of this coordinate span is. You won't suspect that I've set up an ambush in such a large area, right? Yi Xiaowu said. Where? Silver Moon hurriedly said. He immediately picked a coordinate from the span and watched Yi Xiaowu fill it in on the teleportation scroll. But then Silver Moon became suspicious again. Wait, what's this extra number? The map code of Forest Shade City. Let me tell you this. The entire world map of the parallel world is a seamlessly connected complete map, but this is only an illusion in the eyes of the players. With the current capacity of the server, the area of a main city in the parallel world is its limit. So, although the entire map has tens of thousands of coordinates, in fact, the map coordinates that the system recognizes are limited, and it can't tell you how many specific coordinates there are. For example, if the limit coordinate is 2000, 2000, then the coordinate 2001, 2001 will be further than 2000, 2000 in the eyes of the player. However, in the system's calculations, the coordinate 2001, 2001 doesn't exist. At this time, the system will recognize the coordinate as 1, 1, and the coordinate will cycle in units of 2000. The reason why there was no repetition was because every map had a code. As long as this code was added, the system's coordinate calculation would not go wrong. The group of extra numbers you see now is the code of Forest Shade City. If you don't write this group of codes, the system will default to the code of the current map when teleporting. That is to say, the coordinates of Forest Shade City are filled in, but in fact, they will arrive at a certain coordinate of Baishur City after the law of circulation. Do you understand? Silver Moon's jaw dropped. I've never heard of any laws, and I've never heard of a map code. According to what you're saying, if you don't know this code, then it's impossible to use the scroll to teleport between cities? Yi Xiaowu shook his head. It seems that you really haven't used a teleportation scroll. Generally, when players teleport between major cities, they take the scroll to the location they need to teleport to and record the coordinates. This way, the system will store the map code as hidden data in the scroll. After that, no matter where you use it to teleport, you will naturally enter the calculation of the coordinates of the map. And you know what this code is, so you don't need to use it this way? That's right. Who the hell are you? Silvermoon was shocked. This guy had just said a lot of nonsense about the map coordinates. He had never heard of something like this, but the guy in front of him seemed to know it very well. Silvermoon had already faintly felt that he was not ordinary. I'm just a person who knows the game better than you, Yi Xiaowu replied. You're someone from the game? After all, Silvermoon was not stupid. The things that this guy in front of him knew were very technical. Obviously, it was not the kind of rule summary that ordinary players discovered through practice. Yi Xiaowu did not answer his question. He just put the scroll in front of him and said, "Look carefully. The one in front is the map code of Forest Shade City. The coordinates behind are the ones that you just chose." Silvermoon knew that he was changing the topic, so he did not insist on asking. After looking at the coordinates again, he suddenly said, "Then why hasn't the person we're waiting for come yet?" Silvermoon was anxious again. If they didn't come for a long time, what if they arranged an ambush at this coordinate? Could it be that this person was a decoy? Deliberately stalling for time? Was this guy's big pile of things real or fake? Silvermoon's head was about to bleed when he heard the guy say, "He's here." Silvermoon looked in the direction he was looking at. A person walked in from the gate of the night camp. Silvermoon looked at this person and was shocked. "It's you!" The person clearly saw Silvermoon, but his eyes quickly turned to Yi Xiaowu, who was beside him. "You guys?" Silvermoon took 2 steps back and pulled away from Yi Xiaowu. This was because he had seen this person who had just come in. It was a thief who had besieged him with Yun Zhongmu. He had done his best to run naked and spray saliva. "You guys know each other?" Although Yi Xiaowu was aware of Silvermoon's situation, he didn't know much about Silvermoon's enemies in such a short time. "You guys are together?" Silvermoon said hatefully. The new thief looked at Yi Xiaowu as if waiting for his reply. Yi Xiaowu looked at the two of them. "Do you guys have a grudge?" The thief looked at Silvermoon. "I'm just doing things for the guild." Silvermoon furrowed her brows. From the looks of it, this guy seemed to have been invited by the priest just like her. But why would it be him? Was this person some kind of extraordinary person? Silvermoon basically recognized all of the experts in Cloud Zhonghua's group, but she had never seen this person before. Silvermoon had always treated him as a small fry, but because this fella had always been at the front lines when they were ganged up on the last few times, Silvermoon remembered his face. "The reason I invited you too is actually the same," Yi Xiaowu said. Silvermoon's heart moved. "You have a grudge with the child elite group? Logically speaking, Yun Zhongmu's people shouldn't have a grudge with them." Silvermoon felt that this was strange. "I'm called Non-Smiler," the thief replied. Silvermoon immediately understood. This motherfucker was also a scum. He was the first person that Qianli had killed in a drunken stupor. Moreover, when he had been killed, Qianli hadn't revealed himself and was still wearing his 27,149 avatar. Speaking of which, if this guy hadn't been killed, Qianli wouldn't have run to Moonlit Night City. If that scourge hadn't run to Moonlit Night City, Silvermoon wouldn't have fallen to such a sad state. When she thought of this, Silvermoon suddenly wanted to fiercely punch him. "Alright, I think we should first leave this place and then talk." Yi Xiaowu discovered that as Non-Smiler came into contact with the two of them, more and more doubtful gazes were directed at them. "How do we leave?" Non-Smiler asked. As someone who had participated in killing Silvermoon, he was even more clear on how desperate the ambush outside was. "Teleport. You two stand over here." Yi Xiaowu opened a teleport scroll. Of course, Non-Smiler didn't have any concerns and immediately walked over. Silvermoon was secretive and hesitant, but in the end, he made up his mind. He had gambled so many times, it wouldn't make a difference this time. He gritted his teeth and stood over. The scroll fell to the ground, and the white light of the teleport formation instantly carved rune lines on the ground. Many players with slow reactions didn't realize what had happened. A white pillar of light rose up, and the three people who had just been there disappeared. Many players who were hiding in the dark, climbing houses, and crouching in corners had been paying attention to Silvermoon. At this time, when he suddenly disappeared, everyone came out from the dark and gathered together, looking at each other. This is a teleport scroll? In this day and age, there were more and more players who knew what was good. Which bro is this from? So much money. Someone looked around and asked. That's right. Is that bitch worth so much money? Someone said that teleport scrolls were still rare and expensive. In the end, after the representatives of the various groups who were lying in ambush outside the resurrection point expressed their opinions, everyone finally realized that no one had used such an amazing plan as a teleport scroll. After all, ganging up on Silvermoon was an activity that everyone loved to see, and there was no need to hide it to entertain themselves. Generally, the groups who got the opportunity would be jubilant, but at this time, no one came out to admit it. Could it be that someone saved that guy? Someone said, "Fuck, it can't be. This kind of scum is actually saved? Who's so shameless?" Someone was angry. Did anyone notice who that guy was? Someone shouted, "It's a cleric. I don't know him. I thought it was one of you. I thought it was one of you. I thought it was one of you. That thief later, isn't that person yours?" Someone pointed at the people from the 10 Guild Alliance. After muddling around here for so many days, everyone was familiar with each other and knew the origins of this group of people. For them to specially travel thousands of miles to Whitestone City to kill a single person, everyone was very impressed. The people from the 10 Guild Alliance looked at each other. After all, there were many battles to be fought in Moonlit Night City. As the big boss of the 10 Guild Alliance, Yun Zhongmu could not stay here and play with Silvermoon all day long. Fortunately, there were still many people in their group who were enthusiastic about killing Silvermoon. Comrade Zhu Xian, who was the leader for the past 2 days, had been bullied by Silvermoon and his group a long time ago. Now that Silvermoon was in such a dire state, he was very happy to come and beat her up. Who would have thought that within 2 days of being in charge, this would happen? Old Yun, Silvermoon has been saved. Zhu Xian quickly sent a message to Yun Zhongmu. "Fuck, you son of a bitch, how can you let someone run away when it's your turn? Can't you be more mature?" Yun Zhongmu cursed. "There's no other way." Someone came with a teleport scroll and teleported him away. Zhu Xian said, "Fuck, which son of a bitch would spend so much money to save this bitch?" Yun Zhongmu was shocked. Not only that, Non-Smiler was also teleported away with them. Chapter 547. Non-Smiler. Cloud Midnight muttered the name. He had complicated feelings for this person. Back in the parallel world, the two of them were hot-blooded brothers who had played a few games together. At that time, they would at most go into the live chat channel and shout a few times. This was a more indirect way of communication, so Cloud Midnight had a good impression of this person. Yun Zhongmu also knew a little about the matter between Non-Smiler and Chiyue, but he had always considered himself a man and believed that he had no reason to interfere with the young couple's long-winded affairs. In addition, he trusted his brother, so he didn't ask too much about it. After entering the parallel world, they maintained their previous relationship. They had added each other as friends a long time ago, but at that time, they were completely clueless about the world. They were in different cities and didn't know how they would meet, so they could only mix around. In the end, the situation for both sides was quite dramatic. At first, Non-Smiler was in the core position of the #1 guild in Cloud City, which was quite glorious. On Cloud Midnight's side, it was during the period when Silvermoon led Dust Guild to unify Moonlit Night City. Cloud Midnight, the main opponent, was in a miserable state. But after Non-Smiler and July reunited, everything began to take a turn for the worse. It just so happened that there was such a valiant OP in July's small guild. Unsmiler's failure this time was the biggest failure of his online gaming career. He was chased from level 30 to level 20, becoming the first OP in the parallel world to create the legend of losing levels. To this day, no one could break this record, and his name was still being talked about from time to time. Non-Smiler's future in Cloud City was destroyed in an instant, but because of his actions, Gu Fei ran away to Moonlit Night City. Cloud Midnight was loyal to his brother at this time. He couldn't even take care of himself, but he still wanted to help his brother vent his anger. What happened after that was known by almost all players in the parallel world. Cloud Midnight became a big boss in Moonlit Night City, and Non-Smiler fell into desolation. But because of this series of events, the connection between Cloud City and Moonlit Night City was opened. Non-Smiler, who couldn't survive in Cloud City, naturally came to seek refuge with his good brother. It was just that the matter regarding Non-Smiler had been hyped up to such an extent that old grudges had been dug up and gossiped about. It was just short of being made into a music video and written as a doujinshi to be announced. No matter how much of a man Yun Zhongmu was, he had still heard of many rumors, especially the brothers by his side. They were all straightforward people, and when they heard that Yun Zhongmu actually knew this Non-Smiler, they all looked down on him for associating with bandits. At that time, Non-Smiler was the #1 rotten person. Silvermoon had just left the vast and boundless wilderness behind and was in the midst of rising. Yun Zhongmu was naturally quite gloomy about Non-Smiler's personality. For people like them, this type of person would make them grit their teeth in anger, but they wouldn't necessarily look down on her. This was because they were all the same type of people. Looking down on her was the same as looking down on themselves. As for Bu Zhao's actions, it was truly because they had different aspirations and different paths. Non-Smiler came to seek refuge with Yun Zhongmu in high spirits, but all the brothers in the 10 Guilds Alliance already had a preconceived impression of him. Although they didn't say much due to Yun Zhongmu's feelings, no matter how they looked at it, they felt that the brother that came out of Non-Smiler's mouth was filled with an air of hypocrisy. In the beginning, Non-Smiler only thought that everyone had just met and were relatively unfamiliar with each other. But after a long time, how could he not feel that in reality, everyone was treating him coldly? Even his former good brother Yun Zhongmu seemed to have a gap between them. Non-Smiler's days were really bitter. Amidst these cold words and sarcastic remarks, he persevered and worked hard, actively participating in the various activities organized by the guild. For things like rushing to Cloud City to hunt down the vast wilderness, many people were too lazy to do it. He, who had no enmity with the vast wilderness, was unwilling to fall behind. It was just that after doing so much, there was still no one who liked him. Shamelessly enduring for so long, Non-Smiler didn't really intend to continue being a grandson like this. Seeing that there was no improvement in muddling along like this, he had already begun to often calculate his way out. He only hated the fact that the 10 Guilds Alliance was obviously such a big mess, but their unity was beyond his imagination. This group of guys seemed to be thinking with the same head, and their attitude towards him was surprisingly consistent. Non-Smiler had been muddling along for so long, but he actually hadn't made a good friend. This was really a great shame and humiliation for him. As a result, at this time, he received an invitation from Yi Xiaowu and the others. For him, there was no benefit at all on Yun Zhongmu's side, and Yun Zhongmu was also becoming more and more alienated from him. He was not as overcautious and suspicious as Silvermoon, so naturally he agreed very happily. Originally, he was going to go to Forest Shade City on his own. He had just contacted the people there and learned that the other party had come to rescue Silvermoon. Non-Smiler also wanted to take this opportunity to see what the other party was capable of. Maybe he could use his spy identity to help and take the lead in demonstrating his value or something. As a result, the other party's rescue plan was really simple. They actually used a teleportation scroll to teleport. Although simple, this could also be said to be a big deal. From this, one could also see the other party's sincerity in recruiting people. While Silvermoon was thinking about this scroll, Non-Smiler made up his mind because of this scroll. He happily hitched a ride, and the three of them flew straight to Forest Shade City. The coordinates were chosen by Silvermoon. It was impossible for Yi Xiaowu to know the specific location of each coordinate, but the general range could be estimated. The coordinates chosen by Silvermoon happened to be in the city, which saved a lot of trouble on the way. As soon as the three of them landed, Silvermoon couldn't wait to go to the resurrection point to register. He didn't want to have an accident, cheat, and then return to the Knights' camp in Baishar City. Brother Silvermoon, wait for me. Let's go together. Non-Smiler was also new here, so he should also do the registration. Then you two go first, we'll contact each other later. Yi Xiaowu said to the two. Thank you. Silvermoon finally remembered to thank him. The two sides separated. Seeing Yi Xiaowu go far away, Non-Smiler immediately asked Silvermoon, Brother, what do you think of that guy? I can't say for sure. His level is low and his equipment isn't much, but he seems to know a lot of things. Silvermoon said. Really? What did he say to you? Non-Smiler asked. A lot of things about the coordinates and I only heard the gist of it. Silvermoon said. If he had doubts about Yi Xiaowu's words before, then from the moment he safely teleported here, he at least believed Yi Xiaowu's previous words. How did you get in touch with this guy? Silvermoon asked Non-Smiler. They looked for me, and it has something to do with Qianli's drunk. Non-Smiler said. Yes, they looked for me. Silvermoon nodded. What do you think? I think that Qianli's drunk offended this person, and he wants to gather a group of people to deal with Qianli's drunk, so he first wants to win over those of us who have a grudge with Qianli. Non-Smiler said. That makes sense. Silvermoon nodded. Brother Silvermoon thinks so too? Non-Smiler said. He felt that Silvermoon seemed to be hiding something. This guy has a grudge with Qianli's drunk, but on the other hand, I feel that he has a unique familiarity with this game. A unique familiarity? What do you mean? Non-Smiler hurriedly asked. Silvermoon lowered his voice and said to Non-Smiler, I suspect that he might be someone from within the game. The game company? They should be banned from participating in the game. Non-Smiler was shocked. They were all old players, and this was a rule that everyone knew. Maybe he's not from the game company, but he should have some kind of channel and know some insider information about the game. Silvermoon said. If that's the case? Non-Smiler said thoughtfully. Brother, you have a good idea. Silvermoon laughed. If it's that kind of guy, then it's not bad to follow him. Non-Smiler said. But we still have to get to the bottom of this, see how much information this guy has, and what plans he has. Silvermoon said. Dealing with Qianli's drunk isn't a good job. Non-Smiler said. Even though he hadn't interacted with Gu Fei in a long time, who didn't know how famous Gu Fei was in the game now? The guys around Qianli's drunk aren't easy to deal with either. Silvermoon had come into contact with them a bit later, and was fortunate enough to see the full picture of the child elite group's overall strength. But looking at that cleric, he seems pretty confident. Non-Smiler said. So we have to be even more careful. See if there's any profit to be made. That kind of guy like Qianli's drunk, when we're awesome, we can take care of him at any time, don't you think? Right. Non-Smiler nodded repeatedly. Saying this, the two of them laughed happily, actually feeling a bit excited. How long had it been? The two of them were surrounded by looks of disdain, and wanting to chat a bit with people had become extravagant wishes. But now, this guy in front of them had a lot in common with them. The two of them thought at the same time. Hurry up and register him. Don't cause any more trouble. Once their relationship was solid, Non-Smiler immediately began to care about Silvermoon. Brother, what level are you now? Silvermoon was only level 36, and appraisal didn't work on Non-Smiler at all. 41. Non-Smiler said. Even though he was treated coldly, at least he wasn't treated as an opponent and chased after. Following the 10 Guild Alliance in Moonlit Night City, Non-Smiler was more comfortable farming monsters and doing quests. This was also the reason why he was so thick-skinned and couldn't bear to leave. Non-Smiler always understood the principle of a big tree providing shade. That's great. Silvermoon sighed. I'm so miserable, I'll have to train like crazy. No rush, level isn't that important. Non-Smiler comforted Silvermoon. What's more, Brother Silvermoon, you have the King's Sword. This equipment's value is limitless. It's just a pity that I can't use the King's Sword anymore. Silvermoon said. What's wrong? Non-Smiler asked in shock. These hunting parties had always attached great importance to this equipment in Silvermoon's hands, but they had never heard of any party dropping it. "Don't tell anyone else," Silvermoon said mysteriously. "I dropped a piece of equipment when I died a while ago, and now I can't reach the coefficient requirements of this sword, so I can't activate its skills." Chapter 548. Although the two of them were very scheming, they were also very good at making friends. Now that they were calling each other brothers, Silvermoon took out the king's sword from his pocket and showed it to Non-Smiler. Of course, Non-Smiler was very good at appraising Silvermoon. With a glance, he saw that the Sword of Kings not only had a high coefficient, but also had a strong requirement, 25 Commander. Anyone with a bit of knowledge from the parallel world would know that Commander was the required attribute for a party leader. One commander would allow the party leader to form a party of 10 people. New players all had one commander. Frequently leading a party could accumulate commander experience, but the problem was that the current limit was 9. After leading a party, there would be no more EXP, so he obviously needed another way to increase it. As for what this way was, no one knew. Unsmiler had been with Cloud Morning for a long time now, so he had heard a few things about Silvermoon. He knew that Silvermoon had been using the Sword of Kings to strut around Moonlit City at level 30. It seemed that he had already fulfilled all of the requirements for the sword at level 30. It wasn't hard to meet the coefficient requirement because players now knew that there were some mastery equipment that had mastery attributes that could greatly increase the coefficient. However, for Silvermoon to have this type of equipment at level 30, he was already very advanced. As for how he achieved this 25 commander points, Non-Smiler reckoned that he had relied on equipment, and it was the equipment that Silvermoon had lost. This was because he saw that Silvermoon was also equipped with sword mastery equipment, so the coefficient should be enough. What he lacked was the 25 commander. "Brother Silvermoon, do you have equipment that increases commander?" Non-Smiler asked. He had never even heard of this type of equipment. "Yeah, I used to have a plus 20 commander necklace called the Ring of Leadership. It's a pity I dropped it. Fuck, I dropped it even though I had it in my pocket. Damn it. I hope the guy who picked it up doesn't die a good death." Silvermoon cursed. The drop rate of dying in the game was relatively low when there was no PK value, and the drop rate of items in your pocket was even lower. "I've never heard of this equipment. It should be hard to get, right?" Non-Smiler said. Silvermoon nodded and said that Hongchen Yixiao found me and said that he needed the power of my Sword of Kings. I haven't told him that I can no longer activate the sword's ability. But now that you've escaped, tell him and see how he'll deal with it. If this guy really has some insider information, he might be able to get his hands on this kind of equipment or even directly raise your commander points. Non-Smiler said. That's right. That's what I'm planning to do. Silvermoon nodded. Yixiao was not too surprised when he received the news from Silvermoon. He was fully aware of the equipment requirements for the Sword of Kings. The sword's coefficient was not difficult, especially at this stage of the game. Commander 25 was the key. Yixiao appraised Silvermoon's equipment and didn't find any commander equipment. As for Silvermoon's hindsight, Yixiao dismissed it with a smile. However, Breaking Water Arrow was indignant. "Scum!" Yixiao patted him. "Even so, we still have to help this guy. Being able to use the King's Sword will save a lot of manpower." "Help him promote to commander?" Water Breaking Arrow asked. "Impossible." Yixiao vetoed the idea. "We need to open the reputation system to upgrade the player commander. That also requires the content of the world breakthrough. We can't touch it." "Then what do we do?" Breaking Arrow asked. "He can't have sold this equipment to the system, right? It must have been dropped during a PK. It must have been picked up by a player. I don't know if there's any information about it being sold. If it can be bought with money, then it's naturally the best." Yixiao said. "If he dropped it, it should be in Whitestone City. Didn't you go take a look?" Breaking Arrow asked. Yixiao smiled bitterly. "I picked him up and came straight back. Also, this guy only just told me that he can't meet the requirements. You were just looking down on him. Then we still have to go to Whitestone City." Breaking Arrow said. Yixiao nodded. Go to the market there and ask around. I'll also go to the forums and ask around. Currently, the demand for commander points isn't that high. Players don't fully understand the value of commander points, so this thing won't be very useful. Hopefully, the person who picked it up won't be too far-sighted to keep it. Is there only one in the game? Breaking Arrow asked. How would I know? Yi Xiaowu smiled bitterly. He was just a normal player right now. This kind of thing could only be known through the back-end data, so he wouldn't know. Logically speaking, this kind of equipment shouldn't be available at the current stage of the game. However, cross-dire equipment was now a major feature of the parallel world. This was also related to the famous quest chain system in the parallel world. A quest chain formed from a large random chain of quests had a high degree of freedom. However, it couldn't be denied that there would be some extremely lucky people who would form a chain of quests from a simple chain of events. Even though there would be a boss at the end to ensure the final difficulty, the random structure meant that the rewards might not all be concentrated at the last stage. For example, in Gu Fei's chain of quests, the Night Streamer Sword and the Night Spirit Robe were obtained at the end. However, Eddie's emblem and the enchantment of the Baptism of Flames were also quest rewards, but they were obtained at the beginning of the quest chain. I'll make a trip to Whitestone City. Breaking Arrow said. Yi Xiaowu didn't hesitate. No matter what, Breaking Arrow's profession was much better at running errands than him. This was more efficient. On the other side, Silver Moon and Non-Smiler finished registering and waited nervously for Yi Xiaowu's response. Not long after, Silver Moon received the news and said to Non-Smiler excitedly, "That guy said he'll take care of it. He really has some skill." Non-Smiler was also moved. "I wonder where he'll get it from?" Silver Moon said. Non-Smiler obviously wanted to know this too. The two of them were of the same mind. Getting a piece of equipment wasn't a big deal. If they could grasp the entire process, it would be a way to make money. Silver Moon carefully probed Yi Xiao. Of course, he wouldn't be so direct. He tactfully expressed that he was helping him with the commander, so he had the responsibility and obligation to help. He hoped that Yi Xiaowu wouldn't treat him like an outsider and order him around. In the end, Yi Xiaowu's reply made Silver Moon not know whether to laugh or cry. Damn, I thought he had some skill. So he's going to buy. Non-Smiler was also very disappointed, but he still knew how to comfort himself. At least this guy is rich. Silver Moon shook his head. Commander, what's the use of this thing right now? Leveling in a party with more than 10 people at most, 2 points is enough. PK in a party? There's no immunity to damage in the parallel world. PK doesn't need a party at all. It's more important to recognize faces. The use of a party, to be honest, is in battle formations. But even so, in a guild or mercenary group, it's enough to have a few people with high commanders. So the demand for commander points is very narrow. Unless the commander's equipment is extremely difficult to get, it won't be valuable at all. Then is it difficult to get it? Non-Smiler looked at Silver Moon. Silver Moon's tragic expression was enough to explain the problem. Then how did you get it? Non-Smiler asked. A chain of quests that I haven't completed yet. I was rewarded at the beginning, but I just ran errands. I didn't even experience a single battle and didn't get it. Do you think it's difficult? Silver Moon said. A chain of quests. Just encountering it is very difficult. Non-Smiler said. Silver Moon shrugged. At this stage, I'm not optimistic at all. If that guy buys it with a large sum, I think he'll be able to get it back soon. Non-Smiler listened and nodded. Then he patted Silver Moon. Then let him do his work. Should we go level or do quests? Let's walk around first. Have you been to this city before? Silver Moon said. No, let's walk around. The two left the revival point and started to walk around the streets. They got along very well. Yi Xiaowu and Water-Breaking Arrow were both very busy at this time. Yi Xiaowu logged off the game and went to the trading area of the forum to specifically ask to buy the commander's equipment. Then he anxiously posted on the forum and refreshed the page. In the end, there were no serious replies. Some people who pretended to be veterans looked down on him and said that there were actually people who bought this kind of thing. Yi Xiaowu had been calm at first, But when he saw that his building was slowly diverted to the discussion about the commander-in-chief, of course, everyone expressed their own opinions. The only unified point was that the guy who wanted to buy this thing must have been kicked in the head by a donkey. Yi Xiaowu was furious. He saw that his post had been flooded for 5 pages in a row. There was not a single person who came to sell. According to the rules of the trading area, only supply and demand were discussed here. This shouldn't be the case. Yi Xiaowu angrily complained to the moderator. The moderator was very competent and quickly replied to his complaint, telling him, "Water is healthier." Yi Xiaowu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This moderator was a colleague he knew from the company. He had probably been managing a boring forum like the trading area for a long time and was very lonely. It was rare for a water building to appear, but he actually treasured it. Not long after, he set a highlighted and bold post for Yi Xiaowu. Yi Xiaowu really wanted to kill him right now and give him a good beating. Yi Xiaowu offline had been flooded for a night. Water-breaking Arrow online didn't have an easy time either. He searched from stall to stall in Baisher City's trading area, asking around the auction house and trading area. He wasn't like Yi Xiaowu, who just sat in front of the screen and refreshed. He had to run errands and was even more tired than Yi Xiaowu. It was a pity that he didn't get anything for the whole night. The player who picked up Silver Moon's Ring of Leadership seemed to have kept it as a rare item. After staying up all night, the two of them met again early in the morning and told each other about the night's tragic encounter. Both of them had expected the outcome. If there were any gains, would they have waited until now to say it? Silver Moon was also shameless enough. He had a good night in Shady Forest City. Early in the morning, he found that Yi Xiaowu was online again. He immediately sent a message. "How is it, brother? Did you get the commander's equipment?" "Damn it, what a bitch." Yi Xiaowu almost replied. "Butterfly knot. Wow, I write about the main character's people every day. It's refreshing to turn around and write about these goods." Chapter 549. A waterfall appeared in the trading area. This was not big news, but for Brother Yu, who treated the forum as his home, this situation was still discovered by him. Originally, he just wanted to take a look out of curiosity, but when he saw that it was a commander equipment that no one wanted, Brother Yu couldn't help but be startled. Brother Yu's understanding was the same as Silver Moon's analysis of Non-Smiler. At the current stage of the game, 9 commander points was more than enough, and now they needed a high commander points. Brother Yu quickly entered the game, took out his little notebook, and quickly found the data of Silver Moon's Sword of the Kings. It was what Gu Fei had asked Boundless Mang. As expected, among the equipment requirements for the Sword of the Kings, 25 commander points was impressively on the list. Sword Demon, Han Family Young Master, and the others were already in the game. Brother Yu hurriedly informed everyone of this important discovery. "This is the only place I know that needs commander points. Could the person buying the equipment be Silver Moon? Isn't the forum ID shown?" Everyone said. "That's not accurate anymore," Brother Yu said. There was no need to apply for a forum account. It was directly tied to the player's account. This seemed impossible to have a sock puppet, but in reality, although the game could only be logged in by the user, there was no such check for forum accounts. As long as one knew the account password of other people, it was possible to use another ID to log in on the forum. Of course, this parallel world game couldn't be played by everyone. Many people gave up after playing for a while. Game accounts couldn't be transferred, but many people took them as sock puppets on the forum. There were also many reasons why people needed sock puppets. For example, Brother Yu had 2 sock puppets. For someone like him who spent a lot of time on the forum, not having a sock puppet was too shameful. "Is Silver Moon still alive?" Yutian Shenming asked. Characters like him and Unscathed in Battle were only interested in finding out how many times Silver Moon had died after being sent back to Whitestone City. Now, they had almost forgotten about Silver Moon. It might be Silver Moon. This guy has already escaped from Baisher City's night camp. Sword Demon said, "Cloud Twilight gave me news yesterday. This guy has been stuck at the resurrection point for so many days." Yutian Shenming was surprised. "What level is he now?" 36, said Sword Demon. The fact that Silvermoon can use the King's Sword skill means that he has more than 25 commander. This might be because of his equipment. While I was dying, the equipment used to upgrade the King's Sword was unfortunately dropped, so I can't activate it now. That's why I sent this message, brother. You analyzed. That makes sense. Everyone nodded. How did Silvermoon escape? Han family young master suddenly asked. Someone came to rescue us. They directly used a teleportation scroll to teleport away. Cloud Twilight said it was a priest. At the same time, everyone knows the person who teleported away with them. It was Non-Smiler. Sword Demon said. Cleric. Everyone immediately thought of one person. Could it be that guy? Their guess was already close to the truth. If it's that guy, then saving Silvermoon and taking Non-Smiler away is clearly aimed at us. Han family young master said. They actually found this kind of scum to help. Yutian Shunming said in disdain. They're all people who have a history with us, so the cost is low. Brother, you said. But this kind of trash would be the first to run if something happens. Han family young master said. Definitely. Everyone was still very confident in Silvermoon's character. As for Non-Smiler, stubbornness was everyone's impression of him. Even though he knew he couldn't win, he didn't hurry to log off and hide. He actually went in and out and was killed 10 times. At the beginning of the game, everyone's estimation of strength wasn't accurate. This was especially true for otherworldly traveler like Gu Fei. Non-Smiler actually used Earth's mentality to consider things. The lesson was bloody. Silvermoon, Non-Smiler, apple cider vinegar, and that water-breaking arrow. On paper, the lineup seems to be quite strong. Yutian Shunming said while counting on his fingers. Silvermoon and apple cider vinegar aren't even level 40. Brother, you reminded. That guy Non-Smiler has a bit of skill, but he's just a normal expert. He's not on the same level as apple cider vinegar, let alone water-breaking arrow. Sword Demon said. We've known Non-Smilers for a long time. Who knows now? Brother, you said. Makes sense. Sword Demon immediately accepted Brother Yu's view. His idea just now was a bit rash. The problem is that we have Qianli. Yutian Shunming said. How boring. Unscathed in Battle said. There's really no challenge without at least 100 of them. Qianli's online time is already a well-known secret. He and that Hongchen Yixiao have even added each other as friends. It's very likely that they'll take advantage of Qianli's absence to weaken our strength and focus on dealing with Qianli. Brother, you said. We can't ignore that red dust smile either. Even though he doesn't have the power to fight us directly, who knows what kind of strange equipment or skills he'll use on these people. That's right. Sword Demon said. Although he successfully defeated apple cider vinegar, he still had lingering fears about apple cider vinegar's footwork shadow. This kind of skill that exceeded his current level was too strong. That's right. This is the scariest part. Han family young master said. Moreover, from the way he's doing things, he can't just look for Silvermoon and Non-Smiler to help him, right? These two aren't the only ones who have a grudge against us. Ken and you. This was the first person that came to everyone's mind. He was their main opponent recently. Ken and Yu was indeed the scariest. He had a complete team under him that wasn't any weaker than Child Elite Group. Of course, this was excluding the situation of Gu Fei, who came from outer space. Although all of them were below level 40, if they were also equipped by that Hongchen Yixiao, it would indeed be difficult to deal with them. Especially when Gu Fei wasn't united with everyone and only showed up for a short while every night. Therefore, my strategy has always been correct. Han family young master said. Strategy? When did you have a strategy? Everyone was confused. We can't be passive. We have to take the initiative, just like how we took down apple cider vinegar. Han family young master said. Aren't we looking for Silvermoon and Non-Smiler's help? Very good. Let's get rid of these two first. The problem is, where are we going to find them? Everyone said. Isn't Silvermoon looking to buy commander's equipment? Brother Yu, go tell him that we have it. Set up a place and take it. It's that simple. Han family young master said. How could he come after seeing Brother Yu's ID? Yu Tian Shenming thought that Han Family Young Master was retarded. Before Han Family Young Master could say anything, Brother Yu already said, I also have an avatar. I'll contact them. Wait for my news. Brother Yu chatted with everyone about this when he came online. He didn't even leave the offline area and immediately went offline. The others also put down what they were busy with and gathered around to prepare for work. After going offline, Brother Yu went back to the forums and logged into his avatar. The first post in the history of the trading area was still there. It was now at page 11. However, everyone's enthusiasm had clearly died down. If it wasn't for the fact that it was highlighted at the top, it probably would have disappeared. Brother Yu didn't know if the other party was still waiting for news. In any case, he replied to the post and claimed that he had the equipment. What equipment? How much does it add? Brother Yu typed a few times and there was actually a reply. He took a look and saw that it was indeed the original poster. I was too careless. Brother Yu slapped his mouth. He didn't do his homework and ran over to scam people. Although Brother Yu was knowledgeable, he had never seen this kind of equipment before. But then he thought about how he had never seen it before. Silver Moon had occasionally gotten one or two. How would he know how big the world was and how many types of equipment there were? Thinking of Brother Yu, he boldly replied, General's ring. Commander plus 18. Brother Yu applauded himself for bragging. With an 18 commander and a possible 9 points from the player himself, 27 points was enough for Silver Moon to use the Sword of Kings. The other party had no reason to reject him. Sure enough, after a few swipes, the other party replied, How much? You open it. Brother Yu played the role of a buying and selling player in a normal manner. 500. The other party did not hesitate either. That's too cheap, bro. This thing isn't easy to get. Brother Yu naturally did not care about the price. However, he was afraid that it would raise suspicions if he agreed too readily, so he continued to act professionally. Bro, this equipment is useless at the moment. I only need it because I want to fully activate the equipment I have. 500 is already because this thing is considered rare. Otherwise, do you think it's really worth that much? The other party replied. That was quite frank. Brother Yu did not expect the great hoodwinker Silver Moon to tell him the truth. He thought to himself that this person was really different when he put on a sock puppet. He could even turn a wolf into a sheep? Thinking about it, he immediately replied, Look, you've been posting this thread for a day, but no one has responded even after it's gone viral. I've never seen such an inefficient transaction on the trade page before. You can imagine how rare this thing is. Even if it's rare, 500 is still too little, right? Why don't we do it this way? You bring the goods with you and let's meet in the game to discuss it face to face? That's too troublesome. While the two of them were going back and forth, someone else was still swiping to interrupt them. No problem. Brother Yu only wanted to meet him. If the other party had dawdled any further, he would have said the same thing as well. However, he did not expect the other party to bring it up first. Is that your name in the game? The other party asked again. No, just tell me a place and we'll meet directly, Brother Yu replied. This was not to the extent of raising suspicions. That was because too many transactions on the trade page were done this way. They did not mention their real names at all. When the transaction was done, it was possible that both parties would not know the other party's name, appearance, or even gender. Which city are you in? The other party asked. Shady City, Brother Yu said. Cross-city transactions were also a troublesome matter. Sometimes, it would take several hours just to get a piece of equipment. Players had been calling for the exchange and auction house to be shared with the world. However, the officials explained that it was not that they did not want to do so, but that the technology was limited and could not support sharing with the world. In fact, this was in line with the problem of map coordinates that Yi Xiaowu had mentioned before. If they were all piled up together, the server would not be able to handle it, so the burden would have to be split up. Oh, what a coincidence! I'm also in Shady City, the other party replied. Chapter 550. He actually came directly to Shady Forest City. Is he eager to make a move on us? Brother Yu thought so, but the reply in the message was to quickly set up a meeting place with the other party. As for the time, Brother Yu said he had something to do at the moment, so it was set for an hour later. Then, Brother Yu quickly connected to the game and informed everyone of the news. He wanted to get to know the terrain in advance and make some preparations. Tavern? Not bad. Han Family Young Master was very satisfied with this meeting place. 9 out of 10 players would meet in a tavern. Everyone knows Silver Moon, but this kid may not show his face. Everyone should be careful of masked level 36 knights, especially those with sword mastery equipment, Brother Yu reminded everyone. But he also knows us. Yutian Shenming said. Everyone covers their faces. We don't need to go into the tavern, we can just wait outside, Brother Yu suggested. Wait, what if Silver Moon doesn't come by himself? What if he sends a friend over? What do we do? Unscathed in Battle suddenly thought of this. Friend? He still has friends? Han Family Young Master snorted. Of course, he had already considered these details when he proposed the plan, but he deliberately didn't say it. He was waiting for someone to come to their senses and laugh at him. Unscathed in Battle unfortunately fell into his trap and slapped himself hard in the face. Too fucking stupid. Unscathed in Battle thought, how many times have I sworn not to question, suggest, or ask this guy's plan? Why can't I remember it? Even Han Family Young Master hadn't been to the Alley Tavern before. They asked around and finally found the place, but the tavern was a little different from what they had imagined. The Alley Tavern was located in a remote area. After a few turns, they reached the end of a dead-end alley. There was no endless flow of people outside the door, and there were no players who liked to set up stalls in front of the tavern to sell some groceries. Firstly, there were not many people here. Secondly, the alley was really narrow. There was not much space for people to set up their stalls. The Han Family Young Master's original plan was for everyone to disguise themselves as these stall holders and attack as soon as Silver Moon arrived. However, it seemed that this ambush method could not be carried out. Setting up a stall here would only arouse suspicion, and with Silver Moon's wily personality, it was very likely that she would sense something amiss. Moreover, the houses on both sides of the alley were low, and it was impossible for people to hide on top of them. If they were slightly further away, they would be seen by others. As such, their only choice was to enter the tavern. After standing at the entrance of the alley and staring at the sky for a while, the Han Family Young Master led the group into the pub. Let's go in. Unexpectedly, this tavern was located in a remote and small area. There were quite a few people inside, but it was different from the noisy scene of ordinary taverns. This small tavern nestled in the corner of Forest Shade City, where most people were too lazy to come, turned out to be the favorite of Forest Shade City's couples. Inside, a couple of men and women were sitting hand in hand, whispering to each other as if there was no one else around. Their mouths were moving and they were laughing, but there was no messy sound coming out. The 5 people entered the door in one breath, and it attracted everyone's attention. Everyone had a surprised look on their faces. Obviously, the 5 masked men were very incompatible with the atmosphere of this tavern. Yutian Shenming and Unscathed in Battle had a look of envy in their eyes. Sword Demon and Brother Yu were more embarrassed, and the Han Family Young Master was even more indifferent than those couples in love. He broke the silence in the tavern with one sentence. What are you looking at? Have you never seen a masked man before? After saying that, he had already directed the tavern NPC to serve wine with one hand and walked to the largest table with the other. Everyone involuntarily lowered their heads, even Sword Demon and the other 3. Ahem, I'll go stand guard at the door. The atmosphere of this tavern made Sword Demon uncomfortable, and the Han Family Young Master made such a scene. An idea came to him, and he slipped out after sending this message in the channel. He crouched in a corner at the end of the alley and activated stealth. I'm going to study hard. Yutian Shenming expressed his stance and received a positive response from Unscathed in Battle. The 2 of them chose a couple that looked the most harmonious among the many couples and sat down at the table next to those 2 people. Just as they pricked up their ears to learn what they were talking about, the 2 people stood up and rushed out of the tavern, leaving the 2 of them looking at each other. Brother Yu's behavior was more ordinary. He inconspicuously went to Han family young master's table and sat down quietly. He didn't ask for a drink, but looked at Han family young master and said, "I'd like to see how you're going to drink with your face covered." Han family young master raised his eyebrows and seemed to smile contemptuously. Then he calmly took out a straw from his pocket and threw it into the bottle. Brother Yu took a deep breath and gave a thumbs up to Han family young master. "Awesome." After saying that, he got up and sat at the second table on the left. This was the place where they had agreed to meet. After sitting down, he nodded to Han family young master. Everything was going according to plan. A few minutes later, Yu Tian Shenming and enscathed in battle lecherously judged every girl in the tavern, scaring away 1/3 of the people. Han family young master drank with a straw in his mouth, as if there was no one else around, scaring away 1/3 of the people. Brother Yu didn't say a word, didn't drink, and didn't move. He was silent like a killer, scaring away 1/3 of the people. A few minutes later, there were only 4 people left in the tavern. Sword Demon, who was outside the tavern, sent a puzzled message. Why did they all leave? The answer was only one word: aura. He then added another word: too strong. After that, 2 more couples came by. The first couple saw this strange scene, and they turned around and left. The second couple was a little slow. They came in and sat for a while before they felt uncomfortable and left. No one cared about these things anymore. Everyone was staring at the time. Time passed by, and there were only 5 minutes left before Brother Yu and the other party agreed to meet. "Someone is coming." Sword Demon sent a message. "How many people?" "1, but he doesn't seem to be a knight." The distance was still far, so Sword Demon couldn't use Identify. Moreover, using Identify in stealth mode would expose him. Sword Demon could only make a rough judgment from the other party's attire. "If you confirm his identity, Sword Demon, you can just kill him. Do you need us to do anything?" Yu Tian Shenming said in the tavern. "It's a priest." Sword Demon finally saw the other party's attire clearly. It was a standard priest's attire. Is that kid deliberately mystifying things? They were confused. It wasn't impossible for a knight to wear priest's attire, but they knew that Sword Demon couldn't use Identify now, so he could only look at the appearance. However, when the person walked a few steps closer, Sword Demon had already called out the other party's name. "It's Hong Xiao. How can it be him?" Brother Yu was stunned. Of course he's considered a friend of Silver Moon now. What a pity, it just had to be this guy who's not afraid of dropping levels. Han family young master sighed. "He's coming. He's at the door. He's going in." Sword Demon sent 3 messages in a row, and Han family young master only replied 1. "Stay where you are, continue to stealth, and don't move." The tavern door was pushed open with a squeak. Yi Xiaowu stepped in, looked at the 4 people in the 3 seats of the tavern, and smiled. "It really is you guys. Oh, you knew?" Han family young master didn't seem surprised. He took off his mask and threw away the straw. Sure enough, drinking like this was more enjoyable. Yi Xiaowu looked at the 4 of them and asked, "Who contacted me?" "It's me." Brother Yu didn't hide it and admitted it. Yi Xiaowu shook his head. "I didn't know there was an equipment called General's Ring in this game." Brother Yu was stunned and embarrassed. Who would have thought that he would reveal a flaw because of this? If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have been so lazy and would have asked around for a real piece of equipment. Although this equipment was rare, just like how he had asked around for the King's Sword, he would definitely know what Silver Moon had used back then. He could only blame himself for thinking that the other party was Silver Moon. "You're quite familiar with the game. It seems that you really know a lot of inside information." Han family young master said. "A little," Yi Xiaowu said indifferently. "You know so many things, but you still run around in the game. Aren't you afraid of danger?" Han family young master said. Yi Xiaowu, of course, knew what he was referring to and said calmly, "I know what I'm doing." "What's the situation outside?" Han family young master asked Sword Demon. "Nothing," Sword Demon answered. Han family young master stood up and waved his hand. "Kill him and leave." Yi Xiaowu smiled. It's not that easy to kill me. Yutian Shenming and Unscathed in battle didn't have time to act. Yi Xiaowu had already disappeared with a flash of white light. Teleport again. The two were depressed. Or maybe it's the wind chasing emblem. Han family young master said. Why does he have? There's apple cider vinegar, so he can naturally borrow it too. Han family young master said. This guy, he only said a few words and then teleported away. What is he doing? Is he purposely making fun of us? Yutian Shenming didn't understand. Maybe there's already an ambush outside. Brother, you said? That's right. Since he already knew it was a trap, he might have set it up. Unscathed in battle said. Han family young master shook his head. If that's the case, there's no need for him to come out and disappear. His ambush might have been set up before we arrived. Then why did he come all the way here? Just like what Yutian said, to make fun of us? Other than a brat like Yutian, who would be so bored. Unscathed in battle said. Get lost, you old fart. Yutian Shenming scolded. The two argued. Let's leave first. Han family young master picked up the wine bottle on the table and left. Outside the door, Sword Demon had already given up on stealth. Looking at the narrow alley, everyone couldn't help but feel that it was safer and more direct to go through the houses. The five of them went into the house and looked around, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary. There's really no ambush. Brother, you didn't believe it. What the hell is this guy doing? Yutian Shenming muttered. Is he really as childish as Yutian? Unscathed in battle said. Fuck you. Yutian Shenming scolded. Sword Demon didn't say anything and looked at Han family young master. Don't worry, everything is under my control. Han family young master drank the last drop of wine in the bottle. Chapter 551. Triline City Wanted Office. The door opened and Yi Xiaowu walked out calmly. Silver Moon and Non-Smiler were waiting anxiously outside the door. As soon as they saw him, they quickly went up to him. How is it? It's them indeed. Yi Xiaowu nodded. Damn, they really want to kill me. Silver Moon was resentful. Here's your emblem. Yi Xiaowu handed the wind-chasing emblem back to Non-Smiler. Han family young master's deduction was at least one wrong. The wind-chasing emblem that Yi Xiaowu used wasn't apple cider vinegar, but Non-Smiler's. In Moonlit Night City, this item wasn't a rare item. Moreover, it had long been unearthed by the players as a weapon for escaping. How could an overlord of undead like Non-Smiler, who had been continuously slashed by people 10 times, not have one in reserve? This thing isn't bad. Silver Moon also had this idea. I'll help you get one when I'm free. Non-Smiler smiled. Silver Moon nodded. After a night of sleepless nights, the two guys were really as close as brothers. Who picked up your ring of leadership? Did you notice? Yi Xiaowu asked Silver Moon. I didn't notice. Silver Moon wasn't in a good mood. Every time he died in White Stone City, he was trampled to death. There were a lot of gorgeous corpses at the scene. He didn't know who picked it up. At least it wasn't someone from the 10 Guild Alliance. Non-Smiler said. Are you sure? Silver Moon said. If someone from the 10 Guild Alliance got your equipment, it's impossible not to announce it. Non-Smiler patted Silver Moon. During the siege, those who could punch Silver Moon would show off for a long time in the guild. If they could really get a Silver Moon equipment, it would be enough to show off for a month. Silver Moon also understood what he meant and spat on the ground in annoyance. How many people do you know at that time? Yi Xiaowu asked Non-Smiler. I'm not sure, there were too many people. And many of them were from White Stone City, we don't know them. Non-Smiler said. Old Duan went to White Stone City for a day and didn't find any clues. Yi Xiaowu sighed. Actually, I haven't completed the chain of quests that gave me this equipment yet. I'm thinking that if I can continue to complete them, perhaps I'll get another piece of equipment like this in the future, Silver Moon suddenly said as if nothing had happened. Oh, what chain of tasks? Yi Xiaowu asked. A lost expedition, Silver Moon said. Oh, there's no such reward, Yi Xiaowu said casually. What else is there? Silver Moon asked casually. I don't know, Yi Xiaowu said. Silver Moon did not pursue the matter. She exchanged a glance with Non-Smiler, and both of their expressions revealed a trace of strangeness. The probability of this kind of equipment appearing is still very low. Maybe the whole world really only has your ring of leadership, said Yi Xiao. What should we do? Silver Moon asked anxiously. Let's wait for news from old Duan first. Yi Xiao said. Oh, then what about your trip just now? Did you make the mark you were talking about? Silver Moon asked. Yi Xiao nodded. But we still have to wait for them to be alone. At present, we still don't have the strength to face their team head-on. Yes. Silver Moon and Non-Smiler both nodded. But what is the mark you were talking about? Can we see it? You guys want to see it? The two nodded frantically. Follow me. Yi Xiao led the way. The two didn't know why, but they hurriedly followed behind. Finally, they walked to a certain place. The two looked and saw that it was the Alchemist Academy on the side of Shady Forest City. What are we doing here? Non-Smiler and Silver Moon discussed in private, but they couldn't understand. They could only follow Yi Xiaowu to the alchemy room in the academy that was specially provided for players. Yi Xiaowu led the two of them to an operating table. He deftly fished out raw materials from his pocket towards the table. He used the various instruments on the operating table to weigh and distribute them. Finally, he stored them in a container. He poured an unknown potion into the container, and a blank scroll was spread out on the table. The potion quickly dissolved all the materials in the container and was immediately splashed onto the blank scroll. Yi Xiaowu muttered a few words. His right hand skillfully drew on the scroll as if he was splashing ink. A streak of silver light followed the trajectory of his fingertips and sprinkled above the scroll. Then, like powder, it floated onto the scroll. Yi Xiaowu flicked the end of the scroll with the back of his finger. The scroll quickly rolled up and looked brand new. It's done. Yi Xiaowu smiled at the two. It wasn't just the two who were dumbfounded. The other players who were busy at the operating tables were all attracted by Yi Xiaowu's actions. These players made a mess of the operating table. Every one of them was busy until their faces were covered in dirt. From time to time, they would let out angry curses when they failed to operate. Who would play as casually as Yi Xiaowu? When everyone came back to their senses, they immediately rushed over in a clamor. Silver Moon and Non-Smiler were about to ask Yi Xiaowu something, but they were instantly pushed to the outermost circle by the crowd. Brother, what did you do just now? A player with scorch marks on his forehead and eyebrows said excitedly. What did you do just now? A scroll? A girl whose face was brightly colored with unknown materials wiped the beads of sweat from her forehead as she looked at the scroll that had just been rolled up on the operating table. Yes, teach us. Even more people said the same thing. Yi Xiaowu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I didn't do anything. It was just an ordinary magic scroll. The method is the same as everyone else. As long as everyone is careful when mixing the materials and don't make any mistakes, then practice the casting method more, it will look like this. Then do it again for us to see. Just now, many players had only noticed this side halfway and were eager to see the full picture. But Yi Xiaowu couldn't refuse so many earnest gazes. Once again, he took out the materials, took out the scroll, mixed them on the spot, and cast the spell. He was as free and easy as before. Done. As the scroll was rolled up again, Yi Xiaowu looked back and gestured to everyone. There was a round of applause, and many people cheered loudly. There are a lot of materials, and the method is also very complicated. This is a scroll for a high-level skill, right? There were still some players with a bit of skill. Yi Xiaowu nodded. What skill is it? Someone was curious and naturally followed up with the question. Yi Xiaowu smiled but didn't answer. That was amazing. Brother, let's do it again. Someone said. Yi Xiaowu said helplessly, No, we don't have enough materials. Everyone looked at Yi Xiaowu's operating table. Indeed, the materials he used to make the scroll were almost 3 times more difficult than the most difficult materials they had ever encountered. Some of them were even materials they had never seen before. They all played alchemy and knew that this meant that it was a high-level skill, and a high-level skill, of course, also meant that the production cost would be very high. Yi Xiaowu had already used up his own materials to perform once. It was already very good. Whether the materials were really insufficient or not, no one had the nerve to ask. However, they really wanted to see this expert's performance again, so someone said, "Then let's perform something simpler." This suggestion was unanimously agreed upon by everyone. Yi Xiaowu had no choice but to do something simple. He randomly picked up a few materials and directly threw them into the flask that had been filled with potions. He picked it up and shook it a few times. A blank scroll was directly thrown into the flask without even opening it. His left hand shook the flask up and down, and the potion in the flask splashed onto the scroll. But before he could spill the excess, Yi Xiaowu's right hand had already quickly made a few gestures in the air. He chanted, and with a flash of light, there was no trace of the potion, and the scroll was taken out of the flask. It was already completed. This time, everyone was truly dumbfounded. From the materials he had just taken, a few players who were also clerics could already see that this time, he had made a scroll for the cleric skill recovery. This was something that all clerics knew, but Yi Xiaowu's speed and proficiency were unparalleled. In particular, this method of not even opening the scroll was something they had never seen before. "Like this, can it be done?" someone said in a daze. Yi Xiaowu smiled faintly and spread out the freshly made scroll. He shook it in the wind, and with a swish, a white light of recovery bathed the player. How could this be fake? Everyone was dumbfounded, and once again there was a burst of enthusiastic applause. "Another one!" Someone shouted loudly in the applause again. Silvermoon and Non-Smiler were at the outermost circle of the crowd at this time. They could barely see the situation inside by bouncing around. "Alchemy, do you know it?" Silvermoon asked Non-Smiler. "No my ass, who practices that stuff?" Non-Smiler said. A bunch of people turned around and glared at him. Non-Smiler hurriedly cupped his fists and bowed, his face full of smiles as he apologized to everyone. He was really afraid that there was a crazy person like Qinli drunk hidden in this group of people. If he made a slip of the tongue and offended him, he would be chased down 18 streets. What would he do then? Silvermoon didn't dare to speak carelessly and carefully sent a message to Non-Smiler. No wonder that guy's level is so low, so he's playing with life skills. What's the use? Non-Smiler agreed. It was true that he and Silvermoon were now down and out, but they were originally at the top of the level leaderboards. This was achieved by focusing on leveling up. They could play with life skills a little, but it was a waste of time to play proficiency. Damn, when is this over? Silvermoon continued to look in on her tiptoes. Yi Xiaowu was surrounded by the crowd of alchemy players, and he performed 18 times in a row, making scrolls of every priest skill he knew. These scrolls were often sold by other players, and he was also asked by several other priest players to perform many times. Those players who weren't priests couldn't see what kind of superb technique he had to make the skill scrolls they knew, and they all looked as if they had lost their parents. Silvermoon and Non-Smiler were about to die of annoyance waiting outside the circle, and finally heard Yi Xiaowu say in the circle, "Brothers, I still have things to do today, so let's call it a day? If there's a chance in the future, let's spar again." Everyone saw that they had indeed wasted a lot of his time, and they really didn't want to stop him. Many people requested to add Yi Xiaowu as a friend, and there was even a little girl who pitifully followed behind him and asked, "When will Big Brother come again? Wait for you." Fuck. Silvermoon and Non-Smiler both shouted in their hearts, "You can also pick up girls like this? Hurry, 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 it's too late." The two of them couldn't bear it anymore, and shouted loudly as they came in and dragged Yi Xiaowu away. Chapter 552. The crowd glared angrily at the two fellows who dragged their idol away, but the two couldn't care less. They practically dragged Yi Xiaowu out. They hid in a corner the moment they exited the door. Following that, a large crowd rushed out of the alchemy school and chased after them. No one noticed that the three of them were actually hiding in the corner. Silvermoon and Non-Smiler, these two fellows, were already masters of concealment. "Big bro, aren't you tired?" the two complained to Yi Xiaowu. Hee hee. Yi Xiaowu didn't say anything. He just took out the scroll he made for the first time and showed it to the two of them. I sealed the skills I've already used on this scroll. Now, only through this scroll can you see the coordinates of the inescapable mark that I've cast. The two craned their necks to take a look. Silvermoon asked casually, "How did you learn this skill?" This time, Yi Xiaowu didn't avoid answering. He simply told the two to give up. "This is a cleric's skill." Then when do we make our move?" Silvermoon asked. "Old Duan hasn't returned from White Stone City yet. Apple Vinegar won't be able to move unless he takes the initiative. We can only rely on the three of us for now," Yi Xiaowu said. Is that so? Actually, there's no rush. Didn't Old Duan go there to find the halo of leadership? If we can get it back, our strength will be much stronger," Silvermoon said as he rubbed his king's sword and gestured to Yi Xiaowu. This sly fellow didn't want to be the first to be cannon fodder. Moreover, he was only level 36 and couldn't activate his weapon. He was indeed not strong enough. As for Non-Smiler, Silvermoon exchanged glances with him and knew that he had the same thoughts as him. He didn't want to be the first to take the risk. The two's ideal arrangement was for others to fight on the front lines while they threw black bricks at the back. If someone dropped any equipment, they would actively pick it up. This was the best arrangement. How could Yi Xiaowu not understand these two's intentions? Moreover, he was well aware of these two fellas' characters. At this moment, he did not expose them, he only nodded and said, "Then we'll talk about it when Old Duan comes back. But for now, let's see if they've split up. Non-Smiler, take the scroll and take a look." Finding excuses for every errand was ultimately somewhat unjustifiable. Although the Non-Smiler was unwilling, he still braced himself and accepted it. As a matter of fact, he was quite suitable for scouting with the skill Vanish. However, when he fought against Gu Fei back then, it was as if Vanish and Stealth didn't exist. It left a very heavy psychological scar on him. If every thief in the game relied heavily on their stealth skills, then Unsmiler was definitely an exception. But at this time, he had already accepted the task, so it wasn't appropriate for Non-Smiler to be a bystander. After opening the scroll and taking a look, he bade farewell to the two of them and left. Ahem! After Non-Smiler left, Silvermoon cleared her throat and went to talk to Yi Xiaowu. "Well, how is Old Duan going to get the Ring of Leadership from Baishur City? I have no choice but to buy it at a high price." Yi Xiaowu sighed. "You're quite rich, aren't you?" Silvermoon used all her strength to say this sentence in an extremely natural and unsuspicious manner. "Actually, there's another piece of equipment that I think will be very useful to us," Silvermoon said. "Oh, what is it?" Yi Xiaowu asked. "The ideal magic staff," Silvermoon said. "Mana sacrifice." Yi Xiaowu immediately knew that this magic staff would have a skill attached to it. As expected, Silvermoon was once again convinced in his heart. There were many details that showed that this little cleric in front of her was indeed very familiar with the game. Although he said he didn't know some things, it was clear that he didn't want to reveal them. This guy was a treasure trove. "This skill complements your king's command. It's quite good." Yi Xiaowu nodded. "If we can get it, it will be of great help to us," Silvermoon said. "This equipment isn't a quest reward. It was dropped from a wild boss, and the drop rate is very low. It's hard to come by." Yi Xiaowu said. Silvermoon sighed in admiration once again. The ideal staff had indeed been dropped when they had killed a wild boss in Moonlit Night City. "I know who has it, and there are ways to get it," Silvermoon said. "Really?" Yi Xiaowu had only heard of Silvermoon's despicable past, and the ideal magic staff in Boundless Mang's story wasn't a main clue, so it wasn't something that everyone knew. Yi Xiaowu didn't even know if this equipment had appeared in the game, but hearing Silvermoon mention it, it was natural that this guy had dealt with the person who had this equipment. Yi Xiaowu didn't think that this person was actually Boundless Mang. This magic staff, according to its value, has this skill. The other attributes are relatively ordinary, so 2,000 gold should be enough. But the problem is, will its owner be willing to let it go? Yi Xiaowu said. "With 3,000 gold I can definitely get it. I've been paying attention for a long time." Silvermoon said. "So it's like that?" Yi Xiaowu was a bit hesitant. 3,000 gold wasn't a problem for him, but the problem was handing over the money to the guy in front of him. Yi Xiaowu didn't have that much trust in him. If it's possible, I'll contact him now. When the time comes, we'll go and trade, Silver Moon said. Yi Xiaowu heard that he wasn't going to take the money from him to trade with him and immediately relaxed. He nodded, then go. Wait for my news. Silver Moon turned and left. In fact, he wasn't going anywhere at all. He was just going to find a place to send a message in peace. Silver Moon's friend list was originally full of glory, but ever since his despicable past was exposed, a large number of friends deleted him. Now, 9 out of 10 people in the friend list would tell him that the other party doesn't talk to strangers. However, there were some special people who didn't care about the other party's character. At this time, Silver Moon wanted to contact such people. On the friend list, the other party was online. Silver Moon quickly sent a message. "Den Nan, you're here." The person Silver Moon contacted was Jian Nanyu. "How have you been recently? You seem pretty miserable." Recently, Silver Moon didn't play the game much, but he browsed the web a lot. Jian Nanyu's rapid disappearance from the level ranking list was also a hot topic recently. However, Jian Nanyu kept a low profile and only dealt with the people he needed. Even if he discussed with unrelated people, there would not be any results. Most people did not even know what Jian Nanyu actually did. As for Silver Moon, he had always been on Jian Nanyu's list of clients. "I heard that you've already escaped." Jian Nanyu ignored Silver Moon's sigh. "You're quite well informed," Silver Moon said. "I wonder which god did it?" Jian Nanyu said. "Hee, I can't tell you that," Silver Moon said. When they were trapped in the Knight's camp in Baishur City, Jian Nanyu was also the person Silver Moon sought for help. However, at that time, Jian Nanyu was competing with Gu Fei for a big deal, so he didn't accept Silver Moon's business. In the end, the outcome of competing with Gu Fei was extremely tragic. Jian Nanyu sometimes thought that if he didn't accept Gu Fei's business and came to Baishur City to challenge the public to save Silver Moon, he might not have been so miserable. "Then why are you looking for me now?" Jian Nanyu asked. "Are you still taking jobs?" Silver Moon said. "It depends on the specifics." Jian Nanyu said. "Hee, what's wrong? You dropped a few levels and lost your confidence?" "You wouldn't have asked this in the past," Silver Moon said. Jian Nanyu was helpless. He really didn't dare to provoke Gu Fei now. He also knew that Silver Moon and Gu Fei had a grudge. If she asked him to take revenge for her, Jian Nanyu didn't want to take on this job, at least not now. "Help me get a piece of equipment," Silver Moon said. What? Jian Nanyu decided that if it was the night streamer, he would immediately play dead. "The ideal staff," Silver Moon said. Jian Nanyu was startled. After a while, he replied, "You're really ruthless." The ideal staff was in the vast and boundless hands. Yi Xiaowu didn't know this information, but Jian Nanyu did. They were people who specialized in this business, so they usually paid a lot of attention to collecting such information. On the forums, in the game, and in the players' conversations, they had a thick record of who had what special equipment. Even if Brother Yu saw it, he would be ashamed. This was called specialization. "Just tell me if you want to take it or not," Silver Moon asked. 1,500 deposit, 1,500 delivery. Jian Nanyu replied. "No problem." Silver Moon and Jian Nanyu were familiar with each other. Once the deposit was paid, Jian Nanyu would do the job. If he didn't get any equipment, he would return the deposit. If he did get equipment, but the buyers suddenly changed their mind, then he wouldn't return the deposit. Jian Nanyu had no problems with his credibility, so Silver Moon was very assured. As for Silver Moon's character, Jian Nanyu was also aware of it. If it was a normal person, he would only ask for 5001000 deposit. Silver Moon was special and directly asked for 1,500. "How many days before the delivery?" Silver Moon asked. "Can you confirm her current location?" Jian Nanyu asked. "I can't. Theoretically, she should be back in Cloud City." Because of the crappy quest, a bunch of players in Cloud City rushed out into the world. After finishing their work, They weren't in a hurry to return. They wandered around like they were on vacation, causing unnecessary trouble for Jianan Yu and his peers. That's your problem, Silver Moon said. If it's Cloud City, add another 1,000. Jianan Yu said. Why? Silver Moon was anxious. It's too risky, Jianan Yu said. Silver Moon was startled. Cloud City was risky? After thinking about it, he was definitely referring to that crazy drunk Qianli. It seemed like Jianan Yu was also unlucky and ended up in such a miserable state. Silver Moon only felt a sense of schadenfreude. He wished that everyone in the world would be killed by Qianli when he got drunk, and then everyone in the world would seek revenge on him. If you're worried about Qianli getting drunk, then don't worry. He's in Shady Forest City now, Silver Moon said. Chapter 553. Also in Shady Forest City? No way. Jianan shivered. Because unfortunately he was also in Shady Forest City these few days. After being killed again in Shuyu City, Jianan and his party were in a hurry to leave. Their hometown, Linshui City, was chased by all the guilds in the city, so they didn't dare to return. Sunset City was afraid of the 100 Battles mercenary group, so they didn't dare to go. As a result, Shady Forest City was the only main city near Shuyu City. Who would have thought that after a few days, they would hear such news? They're not here to kill me, are they? Jianan muttered in his heart. He had already called his other brothers to leave Shady Forest City as soon as possible. On Silver Moon's side, after negotiating the business with Jianan, she also informed Yi Xiaowu. Of course, she didn't tell the truth that she had hired a hitman to rob. She only said that she had already contacted the seller, but the two sides were not in the same main city. The other party said that he would come back when he had time. These guys really have some skills, Yi Xiaowu muttered to himself. Although he had comprehensive game knowledge that others couldn't have, Yi Xiaowu couldn't compare with these experts in the game at all in terms of this kind of network. While he was thinking, Yi Xiaowu's heart suddenly moved. He suddenly turned his head and looked in a certain direction. He stretched out his right hand, and a recovery spell floated down. A figure that was originally blurred in his eyes instantly became clear. The non-smiler stood in place with a stunned expression, not knowing what to say for a moment. What are you doing here? Yi Xiaowu looked calm. No matter how cunning the non-smiler was, he couldn't find an excuse at this time. Yi Xiaowu called him to take the scroll to investigate the other party's situation. This guy agreed verbally, but he was not prepared to take this risk at all. After disappearing at the corner of the street, he immediately sneaked back again. He didn't dare to do such a dangerous thing as approaching the child elite group, but he was very interested in following Yi Xiaowu to see what secrets this guy had. Fishing for benefits from Yi Xiaowu. This was the idea that he and Silver Moon had. In contrast, the non-smiler could follow Yi Xiaowu to see what he would do. Perhaps there would be more discoveries. The non-smiler had this idea for a long time, but he had been with Silver Moon and hadn't had the chance to implement it. It was rare for everyone to work separately now, so non-smiler immediately seized the opportunity and prepared to spend the energy of stalking and peeping on Yi Xiaowu. He didn't expect that he would be discovered by Yi Xiaowu as soon as he got close to him. Yi Xiaowu had cast a healing spell on him and interrupted his stealth. Stealth is useless. It's completely useless. Unsmiling pain. A puny level 36 priest had seen through him. What are you doing here? Why didn't you look for the people from Child Elite Group? Yi Xiaowu had just asked the question once, but the non-smiler didn't respond at all. She had no choice but to ask again. The non-smiler snapped out of his daze and suddenly came up with an excuse. I don't know. You don't know him? Yi Xiaowu was puzzled. Yeah. I was just about to go, but halfway there, I suddenly remembered that other than that drunk Qianli, I haven't really interacted with the rest of the guys from Child Elite Group. I don't know them, the non-smiler hurriedly said. This was the truth. When he had been killed 10 times in a row, the first 2 levels had been done by the others, but they had all covered their faces. The last 8 levels were all done by Gu Fei alone. The others didn't participate at all. After that, The non-smiler had sunk into oblivion and had no chance to interact with the others. Saying he didn't know them was barely an excuse. Is that so? Then why did you sneak back? Yi Xiaowu asked, as if he was interested to see how the non-smiler would answer this question. Safety first? Stealth, it's safer, the non-smiler said while cursing in his heart. Safety my ass. He had already decided that he would never believe in stealth again. Hee. Yi Xiaowu laughed. He laughed so hard that the non-smiler's scalp felt a little numb. Then he heard him say, "It's better to be careful. There might already be quite a number of people who have anti-stealth skills or equipment. If you still believe in stealth, you'll suffer greatly." That's right. The non-smiler's cheeks streamed with tears. In this aspect, he was the first to suffer, but on the other hand, he couldn't miss this opportunity to get information. He hurriedly took the opportunity to ask, "How did you know I was there?" Holy Sense, a passive skill that senses traps and stealthiness. Yi Xiaowu said. This is too overpowered. The non-smiler's mouth was wide open. It's not as exaggerated as you think. It also depends on the two sides' levels, skill proficiency, and so on. In reality, you're a level 41 assassin. The probability of being detected by my level 36 priest's holy sense is around 0.4%. Yi Xiaowu said. The non-smiler felt that he really needed to delete his account. This ID was already hopeless. Since you don't know them, then give me the scroll. Yi Xiaowu said. How about this, the two of us go together. You can take me to recognize them first. It'll be much more convenient in the future. The non-smiler said. But I don't know how to stealth. Yi Xiaowu said. Stealth isn't safe. Just casually change your equipment and cover your face. Even if you sit next to them, they might not know. I think there are quite a lot of masked people in this city. The non-smiler looked at the two masked lurkers walk by and then added, there are quite a lot of strange clothes too. The two who just walked by were people of the extreme cold. They were too lazy to take off their camouflage and walked away on the street. I see. But Yi Xiaowu smiled and agreed to the non-smiler's suggestion. This guy, what the hell is he thinking? Although the non-smiler had convinced Yi Xiaowu, he was still uncertain in his heart because he couldn't figure out what Yi Xiaowu was thinking at all. He, as well as Silvermoon, actually didn't hide their intentions of wanting to get some benefits from him well. The non-smiler didn't believe that Yi Xiaowu didn't feel it at all. Just like a moment ago, when his stealth was directly seen through, how embarrassing. Although in the end, he managed to bluff out an excuse that even the non-smiler felt was quite lame, Yi Xiaowu didn't seem to care. What the hell is he thinking? The non-smiler repeatedly pondered this sentence. Maple Leaf Tavern. The 5 people from the child elite group sat at a table in a circle. Yutian Shenming was very depressed. Why is it that after we walked out of that tavern, climbed over the wall, and walked for a long time, the place we ended up in is still a tavern? Because the style of that tavern doesn't suit me. The Han family young master calmly explained. Didn't you say you had a plan? Don't tell me the plan is actually to continue drinking in another tavern? Yutian Shenming asked. Did I say something like that? The Han family young master asked back. You, all right. Brother Yu hurriedly came out to smooth things over, stopping the Yutian Shenming who was about to explode. He said to the Han family young master, you didn't say anything about the plan, but you seem to have said that everything is under your control. That's right. The Han family young master nodded. How do you control it? Tell us a little so we have an idea. Brother Yu said. Do you remember how Sword Demon was easily found by them twice? The Han family young master said. Everyone nodded. How could it be that easy to find a person just like that? Could it be that Sword Demon made an appointment with them? The Han family young master said. Don't talk nonsense. The Sword Demon said helplessly. I think I've already said my conclusion before. They definitely have a special method that allows them to continuously track the coordinates of a specific player. It's like they've received a wanted mission. The Han family young master said. Yes, you said it before. Brother Yu represented his comrades and brushed off the Han family young master's slow pace. That's why I boldly say that the idiot just now didn't come to the tavern for no reason. He must have secretly done something. The coordinates of one of us are already in their grasp. The Han family young master said. Then who could it be? The others looked at each other. Maybe all of us. Brother, you said. That shouldn't be the case. His skill should only be used on a single target. The Han family young master said. How can you be so sure? Because when Apple Vinegar dealt with the sword demon the second time, if he had a way to grasp all of our coordinates, then Apple Vinegar wouldn't have chosen to act at that moment because he would know that we weren't far from him. This was also one of the reasons why I arranged for everyone to stand guard. It was to test whether or not they could grasp all of our positions. The Han family young master said. You didn't say anything at the time. Yu Tian Shenming curled his lips. You just made it up at the last minute, right? The Han family young master didn't say anything. He just glanced at Yu Tian Shenming like he was looking at an idiot. Unscathed in battle shook his head at the side. What a young man, interrupting at a time like this. Isn't he just asking for trouble? Look at Grandpa and I won't say a word. Zhan Wushang gritted his teeth as he thought about it. It was actually quite painful for him to endure it. This was because young Master Han's tone and demeanor were all stimulating to the point where you wanted to jump out and refute him. However, you would immediately be despised after doing so. It was obvious how vicious his intentions were. So what you're saying is that the person that the other party has the coordinates of is their next target. But will the other party act like how they dealt with the sword demon and wait for him to be alone? Brother, you said. The Han family young master nodded his head. But the problem this time is that we don't know who the other party's target is, so we can't make arrangements like last time with the sword demon. Brother, you said. Moreover, he helped Silver Moon escape and helped collect equipment. It's obvious that he's also recruiting people. Currently, we know of Apple Cider Vinegar, Broken Water Arrow, and Silver Moon. If the three of them attack together, I don't think any one of us will be able to fight 1 against 3. Sword Demon said. Yu Tian Shenming carefully asked, when you say we, does that include Qianli? Don't talk nonsense, okay? Everyone scolded together. Apart from these 3, I'm sure there's another one. Han family young master said. There's another one? Everyone asked. I don't know who it is, but I'm sure he exists. Why? The first time, the sword demon was killed the first time they found him. Death will remove any status on the body. This is common sense. I believe that this mark is no exception. However, after that, the sword demon still brought the mark and led them to the tavern. At that time, Idiot, Broken Water Arrow, and Apple Cider Vinegar were still in the forest. So there must be another person. It must be the person who gave the resurrected sword demon this mark at the Thieves' Guild. Chapter 554. While everyone was reminiscing, they turned their gazes towards Sword Demon. Sword Demon shook his head and said, I don't know. Of course you don't know. We were just used in front of everyone. Who would know? Han family young master said. That's just your deduction, right? How can you be so sure? Yu Tian Shenming said. Then go out and take a stroll. I hope the one who was marked is you. Han family young master said. I don't like to go shopping. Yu Tian Shenming said. This isn't a secret. Han family young master nodded his head. The gloomy Yu Tian Shenming wanted to roar a few times, but he was stopped by Brother Yu. After recalling all the details, Brother Yu also realized the existence of this problem. Speaking of which, he was quite ashamed. As the Intelligence King, he was good at gathering information, but his analysis of information was far inferior to Han family young master. This situation was also based on the game's settings. Brother Yu felt that he should have this level of skill to be worthy of being called the Intelligence King. Who do you think he'll mark? Brother Yu said. Han family young master sized up the 4 people at the table, and slowly said, without a doubt, if it's not Yu Tian, then it's Wu Shang. Yu Tian Shenming felt that Han family young master was definitely trying to scare him. In terms of importance, this young master is of course the undisputed core. The hissing made Han family young master have no choice but to stop, quietly waiting for them to finish hissing, then nonchalantly continued, "But this young master's core position isn't something that can be taken away by a mere drop in level, even if it's level 0. So, he should be clear that it's meaningless to make a move on this young master." What greeted him was a new round of hissing. Similarly, Brother Yu is unlikely to be chosen as a target. The value of Brother Yu's information has nothing to do with level, and Brother Yu's actual combat value, if it's actual combat value, no one would choose Brother Yu, right? Brother Yu's face was covered in tears, but he couldn't refute it. Plus, this isn't a short battle, but a long battle of attrition. No matter how you look at it, it'll only weaken our combat strength by reducing our combat members. Han family young master said, "There's still Sword Demon." Yutian Shenming was unconvinced. Sword Demon was lurking outside the door at the time. "Thank you. They can't even have anti-stealth equipment or skills." Yutian Shenming said. "Sword Demon is level 40, that idiot is level 36. There's a difference of 4 levels. What do you think are the chances of him detecting Sword Demon?" Han family young master asked. "There's always a chance," Yutian Shenming argued. "Chance my ass." Han family young master typically didn't want to argue with Yutian Shenming. Then, between Yutian and Wushang, which one would it be? Brother Yu interrupted again. "I think it's Wushang." Han family young master looked towards Unscathed in Battle. Unscathed in Battle, who had been clenching his teeth in silence, finally couldn't help but ask, "Why?" The young master of the Han family raised a finger. Firstly, an annoying child like Yutian, no matter the reason or the circumstances, as long as there is a choice, no one would choose him, right? "I agree." Unscathed in Battle nodded solemnly. "Agree my ass," Yutian Shenming shouted. Second, Han family young master raised the second finger. Take a guess, no one liked to humiliate themselves. Everyone kept their mouths shut. Brother Yu opened his mouth to indicate his abstention. "What's the second? It's so obvious. Can't you see? No one would choose an annoying kid. Of course, they can only choose Wushang." Everyone was so depressed that they wanted to bang their heads against the wall. Is there a third? Only Brother Yu had the willpower to continue being fooled by Han family young master. Third, the ability to survive ambushes. It's easier for an archer to escape if he's not instantly killed in the first round. As for a warrior, although he may not fall under a round of attacks, he's the counterattack type in the face of ambushes. It's difficult to escape unscathed if he doesn't completely defeat the enemy who ambushes him. As far as we know, as long as we work together, it's enough to take down Wushang. So we can ignore Wushang's counterattack. Ambushing Wushang can be said to be a surefire choice. This reason is a bit far-fetched. It's not that easy for an archer to escape, Brother Yu said. But don't forget that this is Forest Shade City. In that forest, it's easier to escape than to find someone, right? Han family young master said. Yes. So, as long as he's rational enough, Wushang should be the first choice. Han family young master spread his hands. Then we'll make a little arrangement and let Wushang be the bait. When they take the bait, we'll catch them all in one fell swoop, Brother Yu said. Brother Yu, you're really ruthless. Unscathed in Battle was gloomy. If you die this time, I'll double your points, Han family young master announced. Yeah. Sword Demon, who was in charge of keeping score, also nodded. Is my life only worth this little? The dignified number 1 warrior in the online game, who was also number 2 among the top 10 warriors in the parallel world, turned out to be a sacrificial pawn in the child elite group. Unscathed in Battle's heart was broken. Not bad. Even if Brother Yu wanted to fight for this kind of opportunity, he wouldn't be able to get it, Han family young master said. Brother Yu turned his head, pretending not to hear. Let's go. Han family young master stood up and waved. Hey, aren't we going to wait for Qianli to come online tonight? Unscathed in Battle hurriedly said. Gu Fei was naturally a huge boost to their morale. A long night is fraught with dreams. If we drag it out until then, the other side might lose their patience, or his skill might have a limit, Han family young master said. Wouldn't that be good? Unscathed in battle said, You have to understand, right now it's not them scheming against us, it's us setting up a trap and waiting for them to take the bait. Be more excited, be more spirited, don't look half dead. Han family young master said, Of course you guys are spirited. Unscathed in battle continued to cry. Don't worry, we'll be close by, you won't die, Sword Demon said. Don't go too far. Unscathed in battle repeated this sentence 54 times from when they walked into the forest to when they were all set up. Han family young master and the others stood in their positions. Don't go too far. They received Unscathed in battle's message in the mercenary channel, reminding them for the 55th time, Is everyone in position? Han family young master asked. In position? Everyone replied. All right, Comrade Wushang, I'll tell you now, in order to prevent the other side from noticing our presence, we'll be quite far away from you. So you have to be on high alert. Once you're ambushed, send a message in the channel and we'll hurry over. Try your best to hold on, Han family young master said. Fuck, what if I can't hold on? Unscathed in battle asked. Then you'll win a large reward of double the points of our elite party. It'll be the first time in our history that's happened, Han family young master said. Just fight the monsters like you normally do, Han family young master said. Oh. Unscathed in battle could only helplessly reply, and began to fight the monsters with his sword. As time passed, the four people around Unscathed in battle paid attention to their surroundings, and chatted casually. Can you guys be quiet for a while? Unscathed in battle said unhappily when he saw these people irresponsibly occupying the mercenary channel, which was related to his level and experience. He was really afraid that when he sent out a distress signal, his screen would be flooded with messages. That would be such an unjust death. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, day, night, and day again in the game. No one was talking in the channel, other than the sounds of Unscathed in battle killing monsters. There was only silence. In the end, the silence was broken by Gu Fei's voice in the channel. I'm here. What's the situation today? Fuck, even Qianli is online. Yutian Shenming finally couldn't take it anymore. This meant that they had been waiting for an entire afternoon, but there was still no sign of the other party. In order to avoid being looked down upon, no one dared to voice out their doubts about Han family young master's deduction, but seeing that it was already this late, they couldn't take it anymore. What is the other party planning? Not going to make a move? Brother, you said. Gongzi, you must have made a mistake, right? Yutian Shenming said bluntly. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. This was the kind of youth that was used to describe. In the channel, Han family young master didn't have any reaction at all. Sword Demon, Gongzi? Brother, you called out. Here. Sword Demon quickly replied, but there was still no news from Han family young master. What's going on? Everyone became nervous. Gongzi. Brother, you called out in the channel and sent another private message, but there was still no reply. Where is he? Everyone was confused. What's going on? Gu Fei, who had just come online, didn't know the whole story, but he saw that the group of people in the channel couldn't seem to find the existence of Han family young master. What's going on? The few of them continued to call out as they ran towards the coordinates of Han family young master. In order to cooperate, everyone's location was known to the others beforehand. In the end, they saw Han family young master leaning against a big tree, with a thick straw mattress on his body and a bottle of wine in his arms. His entire body reeked of alcohol, and he was sleeping comfortably. Fuck! Yutian Shenming raised his leg, wanting to step on Han family young master's head. No one stopped him. Everyone was jumping with joy in their hearts, hoping that Yutian Shenming would be able to step on him. However, at the last moment, Yutian Shenming still retracted his leg and lightly kicked Han family young master twice to wake him up. Hey, you're all here. Han family young master opened his eyes. Everyone was speechless and didn't know what to say. They didn't appear, right? Han family young master said. Everyone's faces were still dark. If that's the case, then their judgment isn't as good as I thought, and I overestimated them. It's a bit difficult for me, who has transcended mortals, to think in their shoes. Next time, I'll let you mortals make this type of deduction. Han family young master said. Is it because the other party didn't leave any marks? Yutian Shenming said. No, it's because they didn't leave their mark on Wushang like I expected. They should have already been here, but when they saw our positions, they knew that we were prepared, so they quietly retreated. I'm too smart, but it led to an error in judgment. It's really sad. Although Han family young master said this, his expression was clearly intoxicated and not sad at all. Chapter 555. The other four didn't know what to say. They could only stand there silently and watch as Han family young master got up from his temporary bed made of straw. If the target isn't Wushang, then who is it? Han family young master asked the four of them. The four of them kept their mouths shut and didn't say anything. Han family young master's gaze stopped on Yutian Shenming. Yutian Shenming turned his head and pretended not to see anything. Are you deducing with the wisdom of a mortal? Brother, you couldn't help but ask. Using the wisdom of a mortal? Han family young master revealed a pained expression. I can't do that. The four of them clenched their teeth. Sword Demon was the last to speak. Let's go to the resurrection point and log off for a while. The status in the parallel world will be erased after logging off. What do you mean by beating them at their own game? Forget it. Boss Sword Demon's idea is indeed reliable. The other three praised sincerely. Since you guys like this method, I don't have any objections. Han family young master said. Let's go. The four of them prepared to leave the forest. You're not going? Sword Demon realized that Han family young master didn't seem to be preparing to leave with them. The target can't be me. Han family young master said. Maybe the other party's actions are very ordinary. Then it might be you. Brother, you was an expert in smoothing things over. You're right. Han family young master nodded. After all, I'm not the target without a reason. Really? What reason? Brother, you put his hand on Han family young master's shoulder and asked casually. Jealous of my beauty? Han family young master said. Hee hee. Brother, you laughed dryly. His hand that was on his shoulder stiffened. Let's go. Yutian Shenming and Unscathed in battle urged. The five of them left the forest together. On the other side, Gu Fei still didn't know what had happened here. As he urged, Brother, you briefly described what had happened. When Gu Fei heard that he didn't miss out on any good show, and instead he avoided a disaster, he rejoiced in his heart. At that moment he suddenly received a new message. He opened it and saw that it was from Fireball, whom he had not contacted for a long time. Brother Zue, something big has happened. What is it? Gu Fei was very excited. He wanted to see the world in chaos. We were ambushed in Baishur, said Fireball. So exciting. Gu Fei was envious. Why didn't anyone plot against him? It wasn't easy for someone to target him, but in the end, it was his friends. This was too disappointing. A few of our brothers died. If I'm not wrong, the enemy's target seems to be Mang Mang. Fireball said. Poor they. I don't know. They're all masked. Standard class pairing. Fireball said. Standard class pairing was a technical term in the parallel world. It meant that apart from Grandmaster of Combat, the other 6 classes had a team. Even Gu Fei knew this. Baishur, right? I'll be there as soon as I can. Gu Fei said. Or if you're busy, you can lend me your equipment. Although it was just a message, Gu Fei could imagine Fireball's perverted smile. So this was this guy's real intention. Did he just want to borrow his equipment to show off? Are you okay or not? Gu Fei was annoyed. Maybe this guy just wanted to borrow his equipment to show off and pick up girls. If there really is something, you can ask Yu Zai and Mang Mang. I'm just afraid that you're busy. Fireball said. I'm not busy. I'll be right there. Gu Fei wasn't being stingy. He just didn't want to miss a scene like this. Hey. After talking to Fireball, Gu Fei immediately sent a message to Slender Waist Dance. What? Slender Waist Dance's reply was full of alertness. Do you still have a teleportation scroll? Gu Fei asked. Fuck. Slender Waist Dance had already faintly sensed that Gu Fei never did anything good when he looked for her. Under normal circumstances, she would have to spend a bit. Where are you now? Gu Fei said. Still in Forest Shade City. Slender Waist Dance said. She also came with Gu Fei and the others. She was still playing here and wasn't in a hurry to go back. What a coincidence. I'm here too. Gu Fei said. Get lost. Slender Waist Dance scolded. Lend me a scroll. Gu Fei said. What are you doing? Slender Waist Dance asked. A friend in Baishur is in trouble. I'm going to help. Gu Fei said. I'm going too. Slender Waist Dance hurriedly said. If they were looking for Gu Fei's help, it would definitely be a PK type of activity. Slender Waist Dance also liked to join in the fun. Gu Fei hesitated. If Slender Waist Dance went, she would definitely fight with him for people to kill. This wasn't what Gu Fei wanted to see. Otherwise, I won't give you the scroll. Slender Waist Dance saw that Gu Fei didn't respond for a long time and threw another sentence over. Baishur and Forest Shade City were just neighbors. They also had to fly there. Obviously, they were in a hurry. Okay. Gu Fei had to reluctantly compromise. Where are you? Slender Waist Dance reported the location. Then let's meet at the mailbox in the north. Gu Fei said. Why are we going there? Don't we need to send it to someone to make the coordinates? Gu Fei asked. No need. I have ready-made ones in Baishur. Slender Waist Dance said. When did you get them? On the way back to Cloud City, I booked one in each main city. Slender Waist Dance said. How many scrolls do you have? Gu Fei was surprised. This thing seemed to be a rare item in Brother Yu's mouth. Why did it seem like a daily item to Slender Waist Dance? Gu Fei couldn't help but sigh. It's good to be rich. The two immediately arranged a new place to meet in the middle of the two's current time slot. Gu Fei hurried on his way, but he hadn't sent enough messages. He selected a person in his friend list and sent another message. I'm going to Baishur. Yi Xiaowu, who received this message, was very depressed. There should be a limit to being arrogant. Yi Xiaowu thought gloomily. He closed the message fiercely and ignored it. Did you receive it? As a result, Gu Fei sent another confirmation message. Fuck. Yi Xiaowu closed it fiercely again and didn't reply. After meeting with Gu Fei, Slender Waist Dance didn't say much. She took out a scroll and shook it. The teleportation array appeared. The two of them flashed and disappeared. Gu Fei, who had teleported, looked around and immediately sent a message to Fireball. I'm here. Where you guys? What's going on? Brother Zui, you can't be so swift and decisive? Fireball was a little dumbfounded. It had only been 10 minutes since he sent a message to Gu Fei. Where are you? Gu Fei asked again. Fireball helplessly reported the coordinates. Hurry. Gu Fei passed the coordinates to Slender Waist Dance. Slender Waist Dance immediately disappeared as if she was flying. Gu Fei couldn't outrun her, so he didn't pay much attention to her and calmly followed behind. After a while, he received a message from Slender Waist Dance. What are you going there for? The vast expanse. They ran into some trouble here, Gu Fei said. He didn't know if Slender Waist Dance knew Fireball and the others, but she should know about the vast expanse. Then what are you dawdling for? Hurry! Slender Waist Dance waved her claws at Gu Fei from dozens of meters away. Gu Fei was very depressed. In her eyes, who could be considered not dawdling, the coordinates were already in front of them. Gu Fei was about 100 meters away when he saw Slender Waist Dance lift her leg and kick open a door beside her. She yelled, Mang Mang, I'm coming to save you, and rushed in. Be careful. Gu Fei yelled from behind. Slender Waist Dance's figure had long since disappeared. The other party was an all-class team, and there were at least 6 people. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others weren't too weak. The fact that they were forced to this extent meant that they were quite strong. Although Slender Waist Dance was top-notch, Gu Fei still felt that it was a bit too rash to just rush in like this. Not long after, Gu Fei finally arrived in front of the house. He looked up and was surprised to find that it was actually a tavern. The tavern was a place with a lot of people. It was common for people to suddenly start a fight here, but people who were looking for trouble would rarely choose to do so in a place like this. Seeing that it was a tavern, Gu Fei's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Could it be that Fireball and the others had gotten into a fight because they were harassing a girl, and in the end, the other party came to harass Mang Mang as revenge? It would be a bit awkward if he came to help out in something like this. Gu Fei carefully pushed open the tavern's door and poked his head inside. Everything was normal in the tavern. There were no signs of a fight. Just as Gu Fei was feeling puzzled, he heard Slender Waist Dance yelling at the top of her lungs, "Leave this to me. I'll kill whoever comes. If there's a team, I'll kill them all." Gu Fei looked in the direction of the voice and saw Slender Waist Dance giving a speech while standing on a stool. He saw the vast expanse, saw Tsubasa Sakuratsuka, and also saw Fireball and a few others drooling as they looked at Slender Waist Dance. Something big happened? Gu Fei drew a big question mark in his heart and walked over. "Brother Zue." Fireball hurriedly got up to greet him as a hint of fear flashed across its face. What's going on?" Gu Fei stretched out his hand and gestured at the scene in front of him. Wasn't this just an ordinary gathering in a tavern to drink and chat? What kind of big matter was this? "It's a long story." Fireball smiled. On the other side, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and Boundless Mang were also looking at Gu Fei in surprise. "Brother Zue, why are you here?" Tsubasa Sakuratsuka asked. Gu Fei stared intently at Fireball. Fireball lowered its head and secretly wrote a message to Gu Fei. "Brother Zue, there's a guy over there who's also a mage. He's very arrogant. I wanted to borrow your equipment to show off. Then why don't you just say it?" Gu Fei did not know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that he had not misunderstood Fireball. Although he did not want to borrow equipment to show off and pick up girls, bickering with someone was really boring. "But now that you're here, Brother Zue, you can give him a cruel blow," Fireball said with excitement. "That won't be necessary," Gu Fei said. "I've already dealt a blow to that guy a long time ago." Gu Fei had already recognized the mage that Fireball was referring to. That person was also glaring at Gu Fei. It was Boundless Mang's old friend from Moonlit Night City. Gu Fei had also seen him in Forest Shade City during the Raining the Four Seas quest. "Is that so?" Fireball's face immediately lit up when it heard this. It stood beside Gu Fei with its back straight. "What's going on, Fireball?" Tsubasa Sakuratsuka could also see that Gu Fei's arrival might be related to Fireball in some mysterious way. "It's nothing, Brother Zue is also passing by with Miss Mang, right?" Fireball said. Gu Fei smiled helplessly and nodded. "Passing by?" Slender Waist Dance was the one who was confused. "I guess so." Gu Fei said. "You wasted one of my scrolls." Slender Waist Dance lunged at Gu Fei, ready to strangle him. Chapter 556. Calm down. Gu Fei hurriedly dodged Slender Waist Dance's attack, hoping that Fireball and the others would come and help her. However, when he looked at them, he saw that they all had envious looks on their faces. From the looks of it, they probably considered dying in the hands of a beauty like Slender Waist Dance to be a pleasure. Slender Waist Dance attacked a few times, but she couldn't hurt Gu Fei. There were so many people around, and she didn't want to be watched like a monkey, so she gave up. Gu Fei let out a sigh of relief. Slender Waist Dance's attacks were quite difficult to deal with, but he couldn't really kill her with a backhand slash, could he? However, it was hard to say if this woman knew how to control her strength like he did. "Are you alright? Didn't someone want to trouble you?" Slender Waist Dance asked Boundless Mango. Boundless Mango didn't answer, but looked at Fireball again. Helpless, Fireball could only confess, I called Brother Zue." "Is it really necessary?" Sakurazuka Tsuzum said in surprise. "That's right, I'd like to see who's so daring to touch Boundless Mango's finger in my territory." Boundless Mango's old friend, Mage Lan Yi spoke. Gu Fei finally understood the truth of the matter. Obviously, Fireball wasn't lying. They were indeed in trouble, but it wasn't serious enough for Gu Fei to come and solve. especially when Boundless Mango had such a strong friend. Fireball was most likely unhappy with the arrogant attitude of Lan Yi, who was born in Moonlit Night City. That was why he wanted to borrow Gu Fei's equipment to put a stop to his arrogance. Fireball could only blame himself for not knowing Gu Fei well enough. If he wanted to describe the situation, Gu Fei would think that he was seducing him even if he didn't see it as a call for help. How could he not come and participate in the PK event? At this point, Fireball naturally didn't have the face to take Gu Fei's equipment. Seeing that everyone was in the mood to kill him, he quickly laughed. "Long time no see, let's get together. Isn't that right, Brother Zui? Quick, sit down." Fireball fawned over Gu Fei. In his heart, he felt that Gu Fei was the one he felt most apologetic towards. As for Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others, even though they were pretending to despise Fireball, in fact, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka had just sent Fireball a private message. Well done. It was clear that he had long since disliked Lan Yi's arrogance. However, he was unable to do anything due to the Boundless Mang's feelings. What Fireball had done was undoubtedly very much to his liking. It wasn't good for him to stand up for himself, so this was the perfect opportunity for Gu Fei to suppress him. Fireball squeezed an empty spot for Gu Fei, and purposely arranged for him to be directly opposite of Lan Yi. Then, he courteously let Slender Waist Dancer sit next to Gu Fei, and he proudly stood behind her. In his eyes, this was the super equipment of a hero and a beauty. In comparison, Lan Yi was just a country bumpkin. Did he still have the face to act all high and mighty? Gu Fei didn't have so many random thoughts. He turned his head and asked the people beside him, "What happened?" A few guys appeared out of nowhere and suddenly attacked us," Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. "Is everyone okay?" Gu Fei couldn't figure out whether Fireball was exaggerating when he said that a few people had died. "A few died," Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said with a slightly depressed expression. Gu Fei glanced over and roughly understood a little more. It was clear that when Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others encountered trouble, the situation was quite dangerous. This Lan Yi appeared in time to help them escape. It was a pity that his arrogant attitude really made people unhappy. "The target was you?" Gu Fei asked Boundless Mang. "It seems so," said the vast Mang. "It must be that bastard Yun Zhongmu." Lan Yi suddenly slammed the table, scaring Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others. He cursed in his heart. If it was him, he wouldn't hide his head and face like this. He would definitely openly use their banner. Boundless Mang said, "Yeah, I also think they don't need to wear masks," Gu Fei said. "Apart from them, I don't seem to have any other enemies." Vast Mang said, "Enemies don't need to cover their faces, do they?" Gu Fei said, "Yes." Mang nodded. "He's a robber." Gu Fei was excited. This kind of guy didn't feel any guilt killing him. It was the most satisfying. "Why are you so excited?" Slender Waist Dancer asked. She wasn't the only one. Everyone at the table looked at Gu Fei suspiciously. Gu Fei hurriedly calmed down and said in an extremely calm voice, "Yeah, actually, it's possible that he's an enemy. For example, someone who doesn't have the strength to deal with you, so he hired a mercenary group or something." "Do you have an enemy like that?" Tsubasa Sakuratsuka asked. "I don't think so." Boundless Mang wasn't too sure herself. Back in the day, who knew if there was someone who bore a grudge against her until now? If it was someone without an organization or backing, then it wasn't impossible for the possibility that Gu Fei had mentioned. Who cares who he is? If he has the guts, then come again. Watch me show him. Lan Yi slammed the table again. "That's right." The sound of slamming the table unexpectedly rose and fell, scaring Gu Fei. Only now did he know that half of the people in the tavern were Lan Yi's men. It was no wonder that Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others had such ugly expressions. The other side's power was quite strong. "I say, how many people did they have?" Gu Fei asked. 6 at the time. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. 6. Gu Fei glanced around the room. Just Lan Yi's group alone had an estimated 60 people. There's no need to make such a big scene. How would they come like this? That group of grandsons. I'd like to see if they still dare to come. Lonnie said. What if they don't come? Gu Fei scratched his head. Brothers, what do you mean you're hoping for them to come? Tsubasa Sakuratsuka asked carefully. Of course, aren't you guys? Gu Fei asked. Normal people wouldn't hope for someone to come and kill them, right? Tsubasa Sakuratsuka was still careful. If they come to kill us, then we'll just kill them. Gu Fei said. Yeah. Slim Waist Dance nodded in agreement. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka understood. This was the thinking of the strong, and it wasn't the same as their wretched ways. What, are you afraid? Lan Yi glanced at Tsubasa Sakuratsuka. Just like how Tsubasa Sakuratsuka hated Lan Yi's arrogant ways, Lan Yi also felt that these wretched people didn't fit in. Each and every one of them had shifty looks in their eyes. Lan Yi really couldn't understand why Boundless Mang would hang out with this group of people. Grandsons are the ones who are afraid. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said indifferently. He looked calm on the surface, but in his heart he was cursing wildly. Since no one is afraid, then there's no need for so many people. Besides, we shouldn't just sit here. Let's take a walk on the streets. Otherwise, how will they find us? Gu Fei said. I agree. I also want to know who these people are. Boundless Mang said. Let's go. Gu Fei stood up. Since the people involved had agreed, then the opinions of others could be ignored. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others followed. Lan Yi and his brothers didn't want to fall behind either. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people ran onto the streets. From the other players' actions of retreating, wanting to lure the snake out of its hole like this was impossible. Brother, there's no need for so many people. Go do what you need to do. Gu Fei said to Lan Yi. Although Lan Yi wasn't willing, he saw Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and the others winking at him. It was clear that if he didn't agree, they would think that he was afraid. He immediately waved his hand. Everyone, go do what you need to do. I'll cover this side. A portion of these people didn't have much of a relationship with Boundless Mang. They came to give Lan Yi face. Once they heard that there was no need, they immediately scattered without any hesitation. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka saw that they were so straightforward and didn't show any weakness. He waved his hand. Why are you all following me? Go play by yourself. These guys were never stubborn. They immediately acted as if they were liberated and happily went to collect information about the beauties in Baishur City. Gu Fei looked around. Those that could leave had already left. Only Lan Yi, Tsubasa Sakuratsuka, Fireball, and Slender Waist Dance were left. We also have 6 people just like them. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka said. If these guys don't dare to come, then they're too cowardly. Lan Yi was still so arrogant even though he was alone. Tsubasa Sakuratsuka and Fireball pouted. I hope they come quickly. Gu Fei couldn't wait anymore. The 6 of them walked in the middle of the street in a conspicuous spot. In the distance, there were more than one pair of eyes looking at the 6 of them. Every pair of eyes seemed to be filled with tears. Why? The few of them screamed in their hearts. Am I seeing things? That's Jianli drunk, right? Fire Blazing Clothes asked the person beside him. You're not seeing things. Glue replied. After the battle at Xiaowu City, Jin and Yuto and the others left in a hurry. They did nothing but farm quests and monsters like crazy to level up. They were originally in the top 10 and had been working together for a long time. Their leveling efficiency was quite outstanding. Up until now, apart from Blackwater and Fire Blazing Clothes who had lost more levels than the others, the rest had returned to level 40 and advanced to their classes. Glue, who had become a sharpshooter again, had Hawkeye, and continued to play the role of a scout. Everyone had a pained expression on their faces. Everyone was asking the same question. Why? What should we do? Fire Blazing Clothes asked Jan and Yuto. Towards Gu Fei and the others, they didn't have any resentment, because they always knew what they were doing. As robbers, they were hated by both humans and gods. They were prepared to be hunted down and killed. As for Gu Fei, they had decided not to provoke him anymore. Who would have thought that this guy would jump out and obstruct their business again? This was the first business that Jannan Yudo and the others received after returning to level 40. They wanted to regroup, especially when they happened to encounter Mang Mang in Baishur City. Everyone thought that the god of luck had begun to take care of them. At that time, they were a little hasty, and those guys suddenly came to help. They had no choice but to retreat first. However, they didn't take this little setback to heart and continued to wait patiently for an opportunity. But at this time, Qianli Drunk suddenly appeared, which made them feel that bad luck seemed to be far away from them. Butterfly Knot. Where the peach blossoms pass, not a blade of grass grows. Where Qianli passes, it's all tragedy. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.